Test, 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 test. Okay, I think we're basically ready to go. Just double checking the chat box here. Should be ready to go in the next 2 minutes or so. Ah, I'm missing one thing. One second. Here we go. I see. Okay. Yep, just need about 2 minutes to make sure that I fix one thing. Getting my setup changed a little bit here. So this should be okay, all quiet, and then this one. Test, 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 test. Test, test. Okay, that's back. Cool, cool. Hope everybody is doing well this evening. Test. That looks good. Music's coming through. Order is there. I gotta test the chat real quick. See if that goes through. Yep. Okay. Cool. Still haven't found a better solution for the chat. But for now, at least this is tidy and clearly legible and not like objectively glitched out the way that it was previously. So let me just check Discord really quick. But yes, it'd be good. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little intro. Hope everybody's doing well. In the meantime, this is going to be a pretty chill, casual stream, as the past few ones have been. I do have a more, I guess, like in-depth topic, slightly more intense, I suppose, in a good way, I hope, coming up next week. I still fully intend to talk about the data books and Lightspeed in Naruto in the coming weeks. I will say, though, over the course of the past week, I did kind of go through a little character arc, so to speak, where I reacted to one of Sage's videos, and I watched it on my own. It wasn't like an on-stream reaction. I watched it on my own, and I was kind of surprised by the overall, I guess, approach to argumentation. And I had a brief conversation with Sage about it in the comment section that I wasn't super jazzed about. But as usual, when I disagree with somebody about something, I tend to assume that I am the one who made the mistake. And so I then spent a good amount of time over the past week doing research into a topic that I want to talk about. And I was going to talk about it today, but I want to give myself just a little bit more time to sit with everything. To kind of cut to the chase, the topic is the size of the Naruto planet and how big the continents are and stuff like that. And to kind of just be straightforward about my perspective, I don't think that there is a clear answer as to how massive the Naruto planet is. Oh, hey, Saria, how's it going? Good to see you. I've been liking the evolution of the grind featuring like the Pictos, absolute Picto narrative unfolding there. How are you doing? I hope you're having a good weekend. But yeah, so I guess I want to establish before I, how can I phrase this? I want to make sure that I'm clear about like my perspective and where I'm coming from with all of that particular topic, which is just that I don't think the Naruto planet has to be the same size as our planet. I don't think it can't be bigger, even like significantly bigger. And ultimately, I think that the series world building is vague and abstract enough that there's plenty of room for elaboration and discussion for us to try to figure it out together as a community. But there are limits to what is feasible, and there are certain assumptions that can be made that lead to kind of ridiculous outcomes. And it just so happens that some of the things that Sage was saying in that particular video, that particular phrasing, that particular context, kind of echoed some of the problems that I've had before with folks like Noodles, folks like Seth, and basically this approach of like, in my opinion, it's like if something seems logical and reasonable to somebody internally, like it all seems to check out internally, then there's very little interest, curiosity, or motivation to really explore the implications of the statement in any real depth. So just to give one example, and then I'll go back to the Pain versus Naruto stuff. You know, the suggestion that the Naruto universe could be multiple times in size across, or sorry, could be like have a diameter, or even a circumference that is greater than the distance between our sun and our Earth in the real world, and then what the implications for that would be is one of those things where it's like, okay, well, this seems to mathematically check out, this seems reasonable, this seems logical, but what would actually happen to our solar system if, you know, our planet grew to be that size, which is like multiple orders of magnitude greater? What would happen to our atmosphere? What would happen to other planets in our solar system? Okay, we could just scale the entire solar system up to be an appropriate size. Okay, well, what would that look like exactly? How big and how far away would the sun need to be? How big and how far away would the moon need to be? Like, everything would change in a very drastic way. And of course, you could respond to all that by saying, it's Naruto, it's fantasy, it's whatever, right? Like, authors can create whatever kind of fantasy they want to. They don't have to be bound to reality and physics and stuff like that. But then that does kind of change things for power scalars, because we are trying to get some sort of concrete, often math-based, often physics-based kind of interpretations of what's happening in the fights in the series. And then it gets trickier if, like, those fundamental parameters that we're assuming are true, all of a sudden are kind of called into question. So my whole perspective is basically, let's just be more curious, and let's ask more questions, and let's try to encourage each other to do more work to figure shit out together. And I am finding some friction with that perspective that I have versus, I think, some of the ways that people approach the dialogue about Naruto and characters and stuff like that. But, you know, this kind of led to this curiosity of, okay, well, how big actually is the Naruto world? Do we have any data about that? What data sources can we rely on? And I have some, I won't spoil too much more, but I did, you know, kind of discover some interesting things, and I have a kind of special presentation prepared for next week that's going to involve horses and black holes. So hopefully that gets you a little bit excited about next weekend's presentation. Sorry, says I stepped away from my phone to get dumplings. That's a very good reason to step away. Now you kind of have me craving some. Maybe I'll get some udon and some dumplings after the show, so to speak. Yeah, Claire Obscure was super fun on Thursday. I kind of regret, and also kind of don't, that I didn't spend more time on stream playing with y'all, because I want to keep a brisk pace, you know. Well, not even brisk pace, but I just want to make sure that it doesn't take like multiple months to play through it all. But at the same time, like, I always look forward to it. I was very excited about like getting back into it, and was listening back to like check the audio, and even just like watching some of the footage back, being like, wow, this game has such an incredible like sense of style, sense of art, and getting to just kind of take my time and sit with it. I usually blaze through games. Like, I beat Elden Ring in like 2 weeks, because, which is not like a point of pride, I'm not bragging, it was not healthy. Like, when it came out, I basically just like spent all my free time, like all weekend long. I think I took a day off of work, something like a vacation day, to just you know, play that game, and I totally burnt myself out. So this is actually very, very different for me, like taking this amount of time, taking this long to get through a game. It's very out of the ordinary for the way that I consume games, but it's been so nice to just kind of sit with it for a while. I still want to do Dark Souls 2 music stream. I have not yet figured out how to work that into my schedule, but I think, you know, the Naruto streams have been taking quite a bit of research, which is a good thing. It's fun. But like, so for example, this past couple of weeks, I have read 3 of the Retsuden or Hiden novels, whatever you call them. And then I went back and I watched because one of them was talking about the land of Redaku, the place where Sasuke goes to meet Menno, and like the go to the observatory and get the ultra particles for Naruto, right? So I was curious to see how that was represented in the different formats, and so I watched the anime adaptation of it, and then I read the manga, and then I read the novel adaptation as well. But then it's like, okay, well, the novel adaptation was one of 3 entries in a trilogy, and so I read one of the other entries, and I got a copy of the other one, and so now I kind of want to go through all of them. And then there's some other stuff that I was looking into too. So it's like, I did a good chunk of research this week, trying to learn a little bit more about this, which is super fun. It's super awesome. But then it's like, I think you and I were talking about this on Discord before, Saria, when we were talking about like all of the like everything that's involved in going into making a video, talking about like the flag and banner video for Zelda, and just realizing that like, yeah, there's a certain amount of time, there's like a certain threshold over the course of a week where it's just like, do I really want to spend another 2, 4, 10 hours in front of a computer editing, reading on the screen? At a certain point you just kind of have to set some boundaries, which I am pretty bad about anyway. But yeah, anyway. Sorry says, I feel that you feel the desire for udon, or I lost track. What's the thing that you're feeling the relation to? I'm so excited to ask you about horses. I'm gonna have so many so many horse related questions for you, Saria. Hey Dr. Strangle, how's it going? Dr. Strangle says, no, the moon has to be moon size, but the planet can be bigger than our planet. Woo! God damn it, I don't know why my voice automatically went up for the oh thing. But yeah, with the 2 little fingers pointing. Yeah, that was kind of a weird thing. Like, so I'm not gonna talk. I want to try to like not spoil too much for next week. But I will say, I guess everybody just kind of has their limits in terms of what they are willing to or interested in diving into in a super deep way. And I guess for Sage, his limit is cosmology. But for me, I want to know more. Hey, Darth Magog is here. Hey, awesome. How's it going, man? Thank you so much for stopping by. I saw your comment, and then I went back to your channel, and I realized that I had a couple of your videos that I had been meaning to get to that I hadn't gotten around to yet. And so I actually was listening to the one where you were sharing your experiences with the, I'm sorry, I don't know the right term for it, but is it the religion, the group? And then also when you were talking about like spousal abuse and something, I was gonna write you a comment. Super stoked that you stopped by, because I wanted to like directly say thank you for sharing your experiences. I imagine that like going public with a lot of that stuff, especially if you have family members or whatnot who are still involved in the community, must have been difficult. But either way, like granting more exposure and kind of explaining what really goes on behind the scenes and how it affects people and how hard it can be to break away is really powerful and really important. Not to mention that the videos themselves as well I admit that I listen to a lot of YouTube content as like podcasts, but from what I saw, the uniform and the production value and the character or the persona or whatnot and everything that you put into it, the production value is really, really cool. So once again, like big ups for everything you do there. And I'm going to keep watching through and listening to your stories. The vocal process too, whatever effect you're using, or the acting performance, whatever you're doing, assuming that that's not how your voice naturally sounds, but however you achieved that, that was really cool too. Yeah, big respect for putting all that together. Appreciate it. And thank you for saying hi. Thank you for the kind words as well. So today, to kind of go over, Dr. Strangle, I'm actually curious as well to see your reaction to some of the calc and planet size related stuff as well. We'll get to that next week. But anyway, so for today, this is going to be a relatively chill stream. When I started this, I can't believe this is episode 7 of Naruto vs. Pain, and we haven't even gotten to Naruto's deployment on the battlefield. The original intent was for us to briefly look at Jiraiya like 6 or 7 streams ago, and just like look at the fight between Jiraiya versus Pain, and then clear up a couple misconceptions there, with the ultimate goal of then like having an actually explaining the Naruto versus Pain fight, because that fight in particular, I think some people still have a bit of misconceptions about. I still see it in the comment section. I still see people arguing about it sometimes on Discord or whatnot, just having completely different views of what happened during that fight, because unless you're like really combing through it multiple times, you're just reading through it, casually, and I don't mean that pejoratively, right? Like the default way to read the series is casual. A casual reading is valid, but if you're going through the series casually, you're probably not going through it blow by blow and like memorizing every single like taijutsu combination, all that shit, and so it's gonna seem like kind of one-sided, or you might just wind up kind of blending some of the events together, and the general consensus about that fight can be pretty different than what actually happened, depending on people's perspective and level of knowledge in the series. So the original goal with this series of streams was to go through that fight specifically and clear those up, and what it's turned into, and I'm actually quite happy that it has, is more of a sort of casual, like taking our time, art slash narrative slash fight analysis as we go through the entire like Pain Konoha assault, but also allowing time for us to talk about the art and the like visual storytelling, I guess, not just the scaling and all that. Tonight, my goal, which we may or may not stick to, but the overall goal is to try to get through the rest of the preamble. So we're on like chapter 426, and I want to get us to around 430, which is where Naruto shows up, so that once we've done with the data books stream and the geography stream, then we can kind of come back and wrap it all up with a focused set of streams talking about those specific misconceptions during the Naruto fight. But for today, it's going to be pretty open-ended, pretty loose. If anybody has any questions or other things you want to talk about, feel free. We'll just try to get to 4:30 over the course of the next couple hours, and we'll see how that goes. But today we're going to be talking a little bit about Konohamaru. Of course, as I'm sure you're all aware, you probably heard people say the phrase like Konohamaru took down one of the paths of pain, or like the paths of pain durability is low or not very impressive because Konohamaru killed one of the paths. At this point, the overall community's level of knowledge has kind of increased, and so at this point in the game, most people kind of understand that's not the case, but I still see people mentioning that from time to time. So we'll definitely be going over that today, and if we can just address that while talking about a couple other things along the way, I'll consider it a success. So let me let me check up on chat. Dr. Strangle says, arguing the planet size does not matter if it does not affect the scaling, and I do not think it does, besides the moon crashing into the planet, how we interpret destroy. Oh yeah, so as a very brief summary of my objection to Sage, so Sage's Thick Calves has a video going over Naruto geography from like 10 months ago or so, and there are parts of the video that are very well done and put together. I disagree very strongly with the first part of the video because it's discussing like how big the Naruto planet might be. At one point he suggests that depending on our interpretation of the math, we can get it up to like 200 million miles in diameter, whereas our current one is, I forget, it's like 24,000 or something like that. So much bigger. Excuse me. It might be circumference. I'm probably getting the exact number wrong, but basically it winds up being bigger than the distance between the sun and the earth, which is called an astronomical unit, and that's millions of miles. So I guess like if you're a fantasy author or you're an author of any kind of media and you want to give your characters a place to live, you get to design and decide what that place to live is, because it's your world, it's your rules. You don't have to stick to physics. You don't have to stick to any sort of what we would consider reasonable or logical setup. You can make a completely nonsensical, bizarre fantasy world, and honestly, it's sometimes a lot better if people just focus on that. Like, that can allow for like freeform creativity. I don't think anybody should have to take an astronomy course before writing a fantasy novel, for example, right? It would be silly to suggest otherwise. However, I think that especially artists like Kishimoto do a good job of demonstrating that they do care quite a bit about the bones of their world, so to speak. Like, they go out of their way. I was just reading through the part 1, and there's somebody is like attacking Lee, like one of the sound ninjas attacking Lee, and Kishimoto like stops the fight and pulls up a diagram of the inner ear canal and the cochlea and like all that stuff, and explains how the human ear works from a biological standpoint. Now obviously there's fantasy involved in it. Obviously it's not like 100% accurate. It's not like a scientific paper, but it's clear that he thought of the very specific biology and took some time to research and understand what is going on, like in the semicircular canal and all that, and understanding that like your hearing is connected to your sense of balance, and put that in his world. That's just one example of how the author goes out of their way to try to craft a world that is grounded in some way. And especially with works like that, I think that trying to assume that there was an attempt at some kind of logic, can really inform our perspective on the series. So when people are a little bit fast and loose with that and like kind of dismissive with it, in my opinion, then I get kind of frustrated, especially when that's coupled with a discouraging attitude towards other people pursuing better understanding about it. It just gets very frustrating. So, in other words, Dr. Strangle, like fucking 10 minutes later, I do think it matters. It matters a lot. And it's frustrating to me that people aren't curious enough, especially in this age where, like, okay, I'll spoil one thing. Like, I was able to find on YouTube, like, these universe simulators that people were like, well, what if, like, Titan's moon, or the moon Titan was put around Earth? Like, what would happen? Or what if the sun were twice as big? What would happen? What if the sun burned, like, twice as hot? What would happen, right? And there are actually a lot of resources that people with no scientific knowledge, who just have an internet connection, a free YouTube account, can find to learn about this stuff. And it's really cool. And so my overall frustration is just like, fuck, like, why don't we spend more time diving into this cool shit instead of just being like, we already have it all figured out, what's the point? You know, that's what I'm gonna whine about next week. Saria says, you're not fooling me, Darth just has the auto space mask voice like James Earl Jones. Oh man, that is so bittersweet note about that. First of all, James Earl Jones's vocal timbre is like one of the most legendary, iconic, classic voices, and he's able to command such like presence with his voice, just a true inspiration. Also, have you seen Video Game Donkey's video where they jump into Fortnite, and like now in Fortnite they made an AI model using James Earl Jones's actual voice, and you can like talk to Darth Vader while you're fighting around in Fortnite and basically say anything using voice chat. On the one hand, like as a kid, if I was growing up and I had the opportunity to like open up I don't know, whatever World of Warcraft I was playing at the time, and just jump in and there's Darth Vader having a conversation with me, I would have lost my mind. Like, it would have been fucking amazing. But also, it's like it feels like a little bit of a prop, you know? Like, you're taking somebody who has passed away and you are now using his voice in a weird sort of simulacrum to, I don't know, create a joke version of the character that he brought to life. It's weird. It's weird vibes. So I don't know, but it exists one way or another. It exists. So, Daria says, I want a stream dedicated to Rocket League guys' eyebrows. I'd be willing to do that, honestly, just like an eyebrow stream, and then contrast that with what's his name, Gengetsu, right? Like Gengetsu, when he shows up, he and Gaara have some sort of a bond over the fact that they have no eyebrows. And he's like, this is what true beauty is, like eyebrowless wonders are the unsung heroes or something like that. So yeah, let's do a eyebrow versus eyebrowless stream sometime. It'd actually be fun. Darth Magog says, oh, by the way, am I saying that right? Is it supposed to be Magog or Magog? I'll probably say Magog by default. I'm guessing that it's not. I'm guessing it's a reference to a biblical creature, but it's not perchance like a cheeky reference to Heroes of Might and Magic, is it? Because I used to play this game when I was a kid called Heroes of Might and Magic, well, 2 and then 3, and one of the, like, it's like a strategy game, and one of the races that you can play as has these creatures that you can recruit to fight with you called Gogs, and then I think their upgraded form is called a Magog or a Magog. So I'd be curious if you ever played that. But I think it's based on a biblical something, right? Darth Magog says, in their defense, John, Konohamaru is the only man who won Pain successfully. That's true. He is a king, and he like one-shots him, right? He literally destroys him and atomizes him with one attack. No, but like let's be clear. On the one hand, Pain is a menace, and he. Oh, actually, let me flip that. Let me start the other way around. So on the one hand, Pain is distracted, and he is like Nagato himself is doing multiple things across multiple fronts on the battlefield that are pretty complex. You know, it kind of feels like he's playing multiple different instances of a video game at the same time, and like fighting a boss. You know, one instance with one hand, one instance with his feet. You know, like one of those Elden Ring players that like plays with a Guitar Hero controller and a DDR pad on two different versions of a Melania at the same time. So what Pain is doing is he is, you know, you could say quote unquote holding back to describe the fact that he is not devoting his full attention to any combatant right now. He's also holding back because he's not using his strongest abilities and he's trying to interrogate people. He's not fully bloodlusted and just like slaughtering everybody in his path. So he is heavily nerfed compared to how he would be in a straight up one-on-one fight. And you should keep that in mind when discussing Konohamaru's accomplishments versus him. But also, it's still Pain. I mean, like, even the individual members of the Six Paths of Pain are still, like, top-tier shinobi commanded by a top-tier shinobi, right? I mean, obviously, they're puppeted corpses, but, like, in life, they had to be significantly strong enough for Nagato to take notice and want to use their bodies. And they are extensions of, like, the supposed second coming of the Sage of Six Paths, the supposed child of prophecy, the supposed god, you know. When you look at everything that Nagato is capable of doing, the fact that Konohamaru didn't just immediately, you know, melt, so to speak, is an impressive feat for the kid, especially since he's just a little kid, right? And this is his first, I don't know, I haven't checked the data books to see if he's, like, been going on missions, if he's ever killed anybody before, but I mean, like, this is still an extremely terrifying and intense and threatening sort of thing to happen to a fucking kid. You know, being attacked in his own home, and he manages to keep a level head. He manages to create a combination jutsu using the Shadow Clones plus Rasengan, and be resourceful and take advantage of Pain's distraction. It's really impressive. His growth as a character from part 1 to here is night and day. It's really wonderful. So I think credit where credit is due, and also, like, we should look at it in context. Let's see. Saria says, Darth Magog, he's the best. He'll be the 9th Hokage, mark my words. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised. Like, I forget what his arc is like in Boruto. I have to go back and look at it. But he does become more mature. He's definitely more focused, more competent. He's, like, innovating, doing some pretty advanced jutsu stuff, right? He doesn't have the Rasen Shuriken, but he has, like, the Odama Rasengan. Am I remembering that correctly? Dr. Strangle says, the sun has a diameter of 800,000 kilometers. I read a lot of Chinese fantasy novels, and they routinely give out figures of the planet's like 200 million kilometers, so I definitely understand it as possible. Yeah, that's fine. You know, again, if it's fantasy, that's totally fine. And when it comes to the construction of the world itself, absolutely. But it's kind of weird to be talking to somebody and then, I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into it, but it's just like I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it. I'm less in objection to the idea of a planet being like existing in a fictional universe in a way that doesn't compare to ours. That's totally fine. More, I'm like frustrated with the lack of interest in what then does that mean? Like, what are the implications? What are the knock-on effects, right? Like, what are the consequences for the world building? Honestly, don't really care. I mean, I'm curious, but I don't feel the need to evangelize for... In the same way that I don't feel the need to evangelize for Itachi being stronger than Pain or Pain being stronger than Itachi. It's fine. Pain can be stronger than Itachi or vice versa. I like Pain over Itachi. I think that's a better... he has more win cons and stuff like that. It makes more sense to me, but whatever. Like, I don't think there's an objective consensus that anybody needs to have. But if somebody shows up to a debate and says, like, well, Itachi just wins because the Totsuka blade cuts down any enemy, it's verbatim stated, and the Yara mirror blocks any attack, it's verbatim stated. So, since Pain is an enemy, the Totsuka blade just cuts him down because that's what it does, so he just wins. And then I'm like, you know, and just tries to, like, leave the debate, leave the conversation after that and say, like, that's objectively right, that's the objectively correct take. Then I'm like, why don't you fucking care more? Like, I'm sorry, that is a fair point to bring up. That's something that we are allowed to talk about, obviously, but that feels like it's just the start of the conversation, right? Like, now we need to examine everything that is an implication off of those statements. And I feel like sometimes, no, genuinely nobody in particular, but like sometimes it feels like folks are totally happy to just say, you know, the data book literally verbatim says this, and therefore the discussion was over before it began. Like, why would you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to have the discussion? Like, why wouldn't you be curious about the implications? So that's kind of what I'm gonna advocate for, in general, but specifically next week is just how do we encourage more like curiosity and creativity in the conversations. CCCC. But let's see. Darth Magog says, you got it right, Magog. It's a pun on Gog of Magog from the Bible. Ah, okay, cool. So that must be where that reference comes from. Awesome. I will look into it a little bit more, and I'm curious about the history behind it. I will say, I have started also learning a little bit about Japanese mythology, Shinto, and I know like a tiny bit about it, but Saria, as you know, forget if I mentioned it on stream, but like Noodles a few weeks ago said something along like he made some kind of comment about how Amaterasu is like the executioner of the gods or something. Just like made some really out of pocket statements about Shinto in general. And then I think we did talk about it briefly, and about how like Amaterasu and Susanoo and a lot of other characters like Jiraiya and Tsunade and Orochimaru, of course, are all references to characters in Japanese mythology. And I thought that the Kojiki, which is the book that kind of compiles a lot of these stories, was like super massive, but it's actually not that long. And so I am going through a translation of it, and I'm listening to some YouTube videos kind of going over it. And at some point in the future, I think it'd be fun to do like a mythology, like Naruto mythology stream, kind of just go through some characters and some lore and stuff like that. Amaterasu is one that I think pretty much everybody has heard of at this point, because she, or maybe Kaguya. Like Kaguya has her own, you know, like folktale essentially, and like there's a Studio Ghibli movie about her that I think Konakun has mentioned before. She's a character who's kind of showed up more prominently. But then like Amaterasu, like a version of Amaterasu, like an inspiration from Amaterasu, was the protagonist of Okami. And of course Susanoo and Orochi appear in that as well. So, you know, it'd be kind of cool to talk about those inspirations there. Let's see. Saria says, when you said Pain is a menace, I laughed because I started thinking about Ganondorf's title drop before his boss fight in Tears of the Kingdom. Ganondorf, the Menace Unleashed, is that really what they call him? That's so funny for me. Yeah, that's you know, stay humble, like stay grounded, Ganondorf. How did you feel about the Calamity Ganon title? That was such an interesting take for me. That title seemed a little awkward, but yeah, I still haven't gotten around to playing Tears of the Kingdom. Is it possible to play Tears of the Kingdom without engaging too much in like the custom cars and planes and stuff? Like, I would love to just see, like, experience the world and like fight the monsters, explore dungeons. I really am not good at you know, Minecraft style clobbering devices together and all that stuff. I just want to be told what to do, you know. Dr. Strangle says, I don't know, the Rinnegan might just be the height of AP and Naruto before Bichubum. Well, it's a good point. I mean, considering that Nagato was able to level the yes, before the Bichubum especially, yeah. I mean, I think that honestly, I haven't done a calc for it yet, obviously, but like the Biju tail twister thing that Gyuki does in the forest, I don't know for sure if it's as big as Konoha. I think it's probably smaller, but it's still up there in terms of overall size. And while, you know, blowing some trees over is probably less impressive than the amount of, well, yeah, okay, I guess I'm talking myself out of it. I was gonna say that like Gyuki probably in character has the capacity to do like the Biju tail twister thing, but even if he does, like, the stuff that he's displacing is trees, and it's not like stone and concrete and rebar and like constructed buildings and stuff like that. I guess it's fair to be skeptical about like the mass of those trees versus the mass of everything else. Maybe it's actually larger, maybe it's actually harder with the if Pain is like leveling buildings entirely and like ripping foundations off the ground and stuff like that, then I mean, it's kind of on a different level, and it's probably a larger area. But you know, there's probably something out there that the Biju can do, besides the Biju bomb that's on that level, especially in terms of AP. But it's also, I think, quite reasonable to say that Pain is probably up there, if not on the top of the ladder. Really, like, I have no objection to what you're saying. I'm just like kind of running through in my head if there's any other things I can think of that that come close. But it would have to be something from another Biju. I guess, well, Data is C0, but, you know. Some people say that, like, because he was going to use Ohaku, the C3, to blow up Suna, then that means he's, like, on Pain's level, but Suna's not the same size as Konoha. So, I know. Interesting to think about, for sure. Dr. Tango says, oh yeah, okay. Naruto mythology would be a blast, says Darth Makog. Yeah, I would love to do that. So I'm going to learn a little bit more about it over the next couple of weeks, and I think we should do geography, then or geology, then no, geography, then data books and light speed, and then mythology, and then wrap up the Pain stuff, and probably look something like that. I'm glad we're doing this. It's a much more thoughtful take on island level over yeah, mountain level Goper. Well, that's the thing as well. And this is something that I kind of sympathize with. Like, I don't feel like I should be too rude about this, because there is some degree of ambiguity. But, like, the purpose of creating, like, actually, let's do this one second. Let's do this. Okay. So the purpose of having, like, a tiering system like those used by Versus Battles Wiki and Character Stats and Profiles Wiki is to try to create a shorthand for conversation, right? Like, as long, well, there's more to it than that, but, like, one of the benefits, I should say, of a system like this is that we can basically just say, okay, as long as a character can demonstrate that they are able to destroy something of this size, then they are in this tier. And if another character is also in this tier, then they're competitive with one another. And if another character is, like, way lower and is not able to, like, get up to that tier, then they're not competitive, and the higher tier person wins, right? It's a way of kind of trying to take something that is not, like, take all of the different characters and the different scenarios and different abilities that are often not quantized, like, not divided into discrete chunks, and try to put them into, like, more discrete categories to make it easier for us to talk about, and more fun and more fair too. Like, if you read the I don't know if it's here specifically, but if you read through, like, the purpose and intent statements on places like this, they say over and over again, like, the whole point of this is to make fair and fun discussion easier, right? It's not to objectively prove per se that Superman is better than Batman or whatever. It's to try and give people the tools, like, almost like a dungeon, I don't know, like a what would you call it? Like the pieces in a board game or something like that, where you're getting these well organized scenarios and well organized characters that are mapped out in a way that you can have meaningful confrontations between them, for fun, and for I guess maybe not everybody agrees with this, but for a competition to be fun, it has to be fair or otherwise compelling, and so that's sort of the point of it. So something that I understand, though, is that if you're just scanning through this and looking at the tiering system, you get, let's get to island level, because you brought up island level specifically, right? You get to the term island level, and what does it say? Somebody is island level if they are capable of destroying an island. Okay, now if you aren't familiar with power scaling, and or you're just kind of getting used to it, like learning it, if you come to this phrasing here, you might come to the conclusion, understandably, that a character destroying a Kame house in Naruto would make him island level. Like, sorry, not Naruto and Dragon Ball. So, like, if Nappa flew over and blew up the island that Kame house was on, including, like, the terrain underneath it, right? Not just the house, the whole island. Then that would make him island level because he just blew up an island. But then if, like, Vegeta flew over to Greenland, which I think is the largest island on planet Earth, and he blew up Greenland with one attack, he would also be island level too, right? Now, obviously, it wouldn't really be fair to assume that Nappa was as strong as Vegeta, because Nappa destroyed an island and Vegeta destroyed an island, right? And if this system over here is just telling us that, then the system isn't very good. It's just sort of arbitrarily saying an object that is called an island puts you in a tier if you destroy it, but it doesn't tell us anything about the nature or the power of the attack. So if we click on here on island, it actually goes into further detail about what it means to be an island or what it means to be a mountain. And they're very clear if you go through here that just destroying something called an island doesn't make you island level, and you might be island level even if you haven't destroyed anything called an island, because what the island here is it's an archetype. It's like a gold standard. It's an example of it's like an exemplar island. It can be a rectangular object, it can be a cylindrical object. Basically what they're doing is they're imagining a spherical cow, right? Like if you've ever done like physics problems, they are imagining a hypothetical, idealized island and saying if you can destroy this island, then you are island level, and if you can destroy it this well, this is how far into island level you are. But unfortunately, sometimes people will just like look at the that first page and say, actually I'm getting distracted by these calcs, that's cool. They will look at the first page and they will just see destroy an island means that they are island level, and they kind of get stuck there. And then that's how we have conversations start to devolve about like, well, my character is better than yours because he destroyed an island. Yeah, well, my character destroyed like a much bigger area than yours did. Ah, but was it an island though? Was it an island though? You know, it's just so, you know, I think I understand where the confusion is coming from, and I sympathize with folks who are like, I guess, lost in the sauce about that, but also the resources are out there, and it's like, you know, just think about it a little bit. Oh shit, I'm way behind on chat. I'm sorry. Let me go catch up. So sorry, it says, I agree with your take. I do the same with the lore books and the Master Sword. Like, it's very strong. It's the strongest sword in the series, but the Four Sword is equal to it. Hypothetically, say that it is stronger because it splits Link into 4 equal parts post Four Swords Anniversary, so in Four Swords Adventure, it's said to mimic the Master Sword's power. So what you're saying is that the Four Sword gives him a Kagebunshi no Jutsu. That's cool. Yeah, I need to go back and start playing some Zelda games, honestly. It's making me nostalgic. Also, yes, you can play Tears of the Kingdom without building. Oh, okay, good. That's a huge relief. I barely build. I usually just use missiles and fly over puzzles if I get frustrated. Dude, my favorite moment in Breath of the Wild, honestly, was when I was stuck on one of those like rolling ball puzzles, and you're supposed to like tilt the controllers to guide the ball through this maze, and then I wasn't able to do it, and I was like, fuck it, I wonder if, and then I just like flipped the entire maze over onto its back, and it was totally flat on the other side, and I was able to just like roll the ball to the other side of the map and win. And I'm sure that folks at Nintendo like were well aware of what they were doing. Like, I didn't break the game. They fully planned for me to do that, which actually like made me respect the game even more, because they want you to use their tools to break the rules, quote unquote, right? So I really do respect that. Dr. Magog says playing through in the efficient way. Yes, exactly. Dr. Strangle says, I mostly agree with that, with what Versus Battles Wiki does, but they conflate bigness with power a little too much. Interesting. You mean like the like explosion radius and stuff like that? You think that they're kind of focusing too heavily on that as like a source of strength or power? Darth Magog responds by saying, I think to a degree it's helpful for qualifying specific feats, but beyond that, I don't think the database is very helpful. But I'm more specifically a feats and quantifiable sort of guy than a normal power scaler. Yeah, it's interesting. I think that the purpose of VSB, like I mentioned before, is to try to give people a set of like fair and decently balanced tools, and then kind of let folks be creative with the arguments that they come up with. But I definitely think it has its limits. Like, if you go to what counts as, so like you can click on mountain to get, or island and mountain to get a sense of the specifications for what counts as island level or whatnot. But then if you try to do that for some of these other tiers, you're just not getting there, right? Like, I would like to know what counts as planet level. Okay, I would like to know how you're coming up with this tier. So I click 5B, and instead I get a list of just no. We'll get into that later. We get a list of different characters here that people have put into planet level. Maybe if I go to tier 5 up here, nope, these are just characters in that. So to be fair to people who are confused by any of this, it can get a little confusing, and it's easy to get misdirected, I'll say, when just trying to figure out where to put your character. The idea behind it, I think, is wonderful. The execution, maybe they just got overwhelmed, I'm not sure, but the execution can leave a little to be desired, I suppose. Dr. Strangle says, versus Battles Wiki defines the size of things like island level off of the amount of jewels. Yeah, that's kind of what I would expect, right? They're trying to get a sense of how much energy, like at the end of the day, DC and AP are both measures of energy output, and they're trying to get a way of like, when I say quantizing, I mean like taking something that's kind of abstract and flowing and putting it into like little boxes that are easier to manage and exchange in the course of a fight, right? You don't necessarily have to say like Pain is 1.2 times island level and Kakuzu is like 6.662x mountain level. You know, you just kind of put them into their discrete little categories and then have them go at it, right? So it makes sense they would want to use something like joules, but then funny enough, like the joules values that are used for those calculations, again, I've never heard somebody in debate actually say like my character is more impressive than yours and then pull out a joules value. They always just refer to the overall tier or level. I have heard somebody say like, I'm just gonna make up a number here, but like this guy over here is planetary level. Do you know what that means? That's like 1 million yata tons of TNT. Like some people like to pull out the like teratons or yata tons. They like to say terms like that, but they're never getting it down to like the precise joule amount, to the point where they're debating the numbers like that in fights. Not that I've seen, thankfully. But anyway, let's see. Darth Magog says, I don't want to derail the stream. Yeah, no worries. We tend to be pretty loose and go on tangents all the time, so no worries at all. What are your thoughts on using make-believe stats like combat speed and attack potency and power scaling in combination with real stats like strength, destructive force, and speed? So I think it's a really good question, and I think at the end of the day, you know, I'm kind of being a broken record here, but the purpose of power scaling, for me, and the interest that I have in it anyway, is in using it to try to understand the mechanics and the I guess principles of the universe that the authors created as closely as possible, and to really get like how everything works, and then to be able to have meaningful discussions about, like, at least I'm not personally all that interested in cross-verse stuff, but even within Naruto, like in order to debate Kakuzu versus Pain, in my opinion, you need to understand both of them as personalities. You need to understand their motivations. Then you need to understand their jutsu and how the jutsu works. So that means you need to understand chakra, and you need to understand like etc. Right? So basically, it's an excuse to spend more time diving deep into these characters and their abilities and all that, and just developing an understanding for how they work in the series. Specifically, when talking about things like cross-verse battles where people have different power systems, and you know, ki and chakra and whatever power folks are using in Avatar: The Last Airbender as an example are similar, but they might have like small nuances and differences that mean that they're not entirely interchangeable. And then talking about, like, I don't know, if Superman showed up in the Naruto universe, how would he clash with Madara or something like that? At a certain point, you're going to need to find ways to kind of equalize and kind of summarize their abilities so that they can have meaningful fights with one another. And at that point, smearing together things like, instead of saying, oh, you know, when Naruto uses his when Sasuke uses a fireball, it's got like 50 chakra power behind it. Instead, convert that into a general unit, like just heat, like however many joules, however many like degrees Fahrenheit that ball is, and then you can combine that with, like, I don't know, the Human Torch or something like that, and see if it's hotter than the Human Torch's fire. And I think by doing that, you make it easier to have those otherwise extremely complicated conversations. I think it's important to realize that the risk of doing that is that you can start making assumptions that the magical things inside a given universe wind up just being identical to what their real world counterpart would be. So if you've read Boruto, I'm sure you're familiar with the scene where Kashin Koji is fighting Ishiki, and I think it's Jigen at the time, and Jigen can absorb ninjutsu. So Kashin Koji tricks him into thinking he's using a fire jutsu, but he's actually summoning fire directly from like a volcano or mountain where there's an actively raging fire. And Kashin Koji is, Jigen is not able to absorb the fire because it's just regular old fucking fire and not ninjutsu. It doesn't have chakra in it, right? So they might actually still burn at the exact like same degree Kelvin or whatever, but they don't necessarily have the same physical properties. They're not necessarily fully interchangeable, even though they're kind of presented that way. And so I think the risk in there's a risk of oversimplifying for the sake of having these hypothetical battles that then can lead to people forgetting about or like ignoring the actual properties of the abilities themselves. I guess it really comes down to what the purpose is that you're looking for. I could keep going, but I'll check chat again. Sorry. Did that kind of answer your question? Was that what you were kind of hoping to get feedback for? Let me know what you think. Dr. Strangle says mountain level is defined as 100 megatons of TNT. Any combination of size and destruction level that sums to 100 megatons is... Yeah, exactly. And so you don't need to actually destroy a mountain. The mountain in and of itself is kind of irrelevant almost, because it's just used as like a way of creating a standard of measurement. But it's not about destroying a mountain specifically. It's about destroying a specific amount of mass, and like the mountain level is just the term that we are using to refer to that tier. What did I missed something. Okay. Saria says that's exactly what I did with those puzzles. I flipped the maze. It's so satisfying too. It feels like you've totally like overwritten the rules. It made me feel really smart, honestly, even though I know they planned for it. Dr. Strangle says, not that. Looks like a mountain. They destroyed it, so they are mountain level. Yeah, okay. I think we're on the same page. I think we understand each other. Dr. Strangle then says, John, may even go to attack potency and scroll down to the notes section, and the size for planetary is there. Okay. Let's see. What's his tiering system? So, hang on. Attack potency. Oh, I see. So these are just describing the tiers, but then I have to actually look for the individual ones. Oh, I see. Cool. That makes sense. Okay, that's good. That's very useful. Quetaton. Quetaton is just a beautiful world. A terrapho. Okay. Now I need to learn more about this. This could be a whole rabbit hole. Okay, so I'm very glad to know that this exists, because this is definitely... Okay, I guess like on the one hand, this means I'm like slightly less tolerant of not knowing about it, but I didn't know about it, so I'll retract what I just said. I appreciate you letting me know about this page. I will spend some more time going over it. It's great to know where it is. I guess I just didn't do a very good job of navigating around the site. Wow, the ads are like non-stop. They're haunting me. Okay, cool, very cool. Let me see. Actually, Luffy should be universal because Gear 4th Luffy fought Super Saiyan Blue Goku. Okay, you almost got me there for a second. This is a joke, but this is an actual thing that's happened because of a commercial for a crossover game. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm genuinely curious, like, whether it's Marvel or whether it's other verses like that. I was just watching a fight between Deadpool and Wolverine in the recent movie, and I imagine that the producers of the movie are somewhat constrained by fan expectations. Like, they can't have Deadpool win too hard or lose too hard, or vice versa with Wolverine, because it's going to upset some of the fan base no matter what you do. So you have to have them both have moments where they get their ass kicked and then come out on top, and then have them basically be roughly even. Like one can win, but then the other one has to have a chance to as well. That's basically what they did with like Captain America and Iron Man as well, right? Like at least to my recollection, there was no clear winner with one of them being hugely more powerful than the other, because they had to give like equal opportunity to both parts of the franchise, so to speak. But if you then collaborate and put, oh, 1 second. Oh, sorry. If you then collaborate and put like a person from one franchise in a completely different franchise, then it gets messier, because what do you do if you're bringing your character into somebody else's world and yours is like way stronger? Like how does that look politically, so to speak? Wish that creators and artists didn't have to worry about that stuff, but inevitably it does kind of come up. Hey, Mr. Narrative, I do see Mr. Narrative showed up. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you're having a great night and a great weekend. We're just chatting. We're just kind of going over power scaling stuff. Haven't really started with the Konohamaru versus Pain stuff just yet, but I'm sure we'll get to it in a little bit. Yeah, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Let me see. Amaterasu is as hot as the sun, but doesn't burn leaves, so leaves just have more durability than the sun can burn. Yes, that's a very good point. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, Sasuke used Amaterasu as part of his ploy to make clouds, like cumulonimbus clouds, right, for the use of Kirin. So on the one hand, I think they do actually generate a lot of ambient heat, even for stuff that they're not directly coming into contact with. But yeah, that's another one of those things where it's like, okay, what does burns as hot as the sun mean? Does it mean A, the core of the sun, B, like the surface of the sun, or C, it's a metaphor? Shut up. Like and I think it's one of those things where, I mean, Amaterasu is the sun goddess, and having it being associated with the sun absolutely makes sense. But also, like, I don't think, like, who was it that actually said that the flames burn as hot as the sun? If it was Jiraiya or if it was Zetsu, I don't think either of them were standing there with like a thermal, like, reading, like, scanning device, and then scanning the sun and then making sure that they match up, right? There should be more room for abstraction, understanding that we don't have to take everything fucking literally from every character. But yeah, that's a good point. It doesn't just, if it actually were even like as hot as the surface of the sun, wouldn't it be like frying people's skin? And like when Nagato's on the ground, when he gets tagged with it, wouldn't it just like burn up his whole body, like liquefy his flesh and everything? It would start to scorch the earth and light trees on fire all around him. But it's not. It doesn't work like that. It's quite different. So, oh my god, Mr. Narrative, I can't answer that, man. I'm going to wind up invoking the wrath of both sides of the franchise, no matter what I say. I'll give it some thought. I'll come back to that because I have to think about how best to deal with it. Honestly, I think Goku is the better fighter in terms of taijutsu and in terms of like overall skills and abilities, but Naruto has consistently gone up against characters who are stronger than he has, and the way that he wins is with trickery and deception, and Goku hasn't had as much experience dealing with that kind of stuff. Especially when he was a kid, he went up against characters that were more dynamic in terms of their like trickery. Like he fought against that invisible guy. Wait, was that Krillin? No, it was Goku who fought against that invisible guy when he was a kid. And like, various characters that he's fought against have had various like hacks or whatever. Like I think he fought against somebody in the Boo saga, like that alien monster that looked like Scyther that was draining the light energy from him, and he like found a way to overwhelm him and stuff like that. Goku is clever, he's resourceful, he's innovative when it comes to his combat, but not quite to the extent that Naruto is, in terms of his like trickery, deception, the things he can kind of pull out of his the back of his mind, so to speak. So I think Naruto has an advantage in terms of tactics, but Goku has the advantage in terms of just like overall like raw power, combat strength. Like he's been in wars, depending on what version of Goku you're using. Like if you are using the like Frieza Saga Goku even. Like, this is a Goku who has, I shouldn't say wars, he hasn't been in a fucking war, what the hell? He's not been in wars, but he has fought, like, warriors who are seasoned killers and has been in life or death situations, probably more than Naruto overall at that point, against more foes with a higher threat level, etc. So, I don't know, it's totally debatable, and of course it depends exactly, like extremely heavily on what part of the series they're both at. I'm kind of assuming, in my head, for whatever reason, I'm picturing like Pain arc Naruto versus Frieza arc Goku, equal stats, and I'm giving Goku the advantage combat-wise, and I'm giving Naruto the advantage tactics-wise. But way out of order here with the chat. Let me go back up. Darth Magog says, right, but that's subjective. Your formula is functionally for pressure, the Newton square meters, that is. Oh, I missed the power scaling terms a little different. Attack potency, newtons per square meter. Capacity, total joules, and combat speed, just the speed. Okay, so there is actually a bit more distinction than I was giving it credit for. So sorry if I misrepresented that at all, Dr. Strangle. Dr. Strangle also says speed one can achieve during combat, the equivalent of like a 0 to 60 of a car. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yep. Is that kind of the consensus amongst the different places like VSB and character stats and profiles and all that? Do they all kind of use the same system? Darth Magog says it's subjective. Your formula is functionally for pressure. Admittedly, I still need to kind of educate myself a bit more about the difference between like, what do you say? We can like newtons and joules and stuff like that. There's still quite a bit I need to learn in that regard. I've just been using the shorthand, so to speak. Dr. Strangle says, even the scientific measurement of strength, destructive force, and speed are also subjective. They are socially defined. Oh, interesting. So there's not really a, oh, I see what you're saying. Like, so destructive force is subjective in the way that it is a subjective term in and of itself, but then we could have it point to things like joules values or whatnot, and then those things could be objectively measured. Is that like a fair assessment? But Darth Magog says, I disagree. I find that demonstrable, replicatable mathematics are objective. Yeah, I'm wondering where the like happy medium between those two things might be. I'm curious how we maintain objectivity, but also like allow for flexibility with definitions and stuff like that. Darth Magog says it was Krillin, then Yamcha fought the Invisible Man. Oh, okay, gotcha. That's right. I haven't read the like part 1 in a long time. But yeah, but it was Krillin was the one who solved the problem, right? Like maybe I shouldn't describe exactly how he does so, but he uses blood to reveal the Invisible Man, and so it wasn't even Goku like resolving it with his own ingenuity or whatever, because it wasn't Goku at all. But like, yeah, I have to go back. I want to make sure that I'm not underplaying Goku, but when I just think about the number of, well, I was gonna say, you know, Goku as a kid like tanks a bullet pretty early on, so, but we're saying equal stats, and like Naruto characters can get pierced by like piercing weapons and stuff like that, can get bloodied by them. So unless Naruto was in Sage mode, then yeah, this could be a whole topic. I'm starting to ruffle feathers either way. Yeah, we have to, I think, first specify like what arc and what tools and stuff like that. We have to do a little bit more work to establish it. But like intuitively, I think they both have. There's not a clear winner. It really just kind of comes down to how they use the things that they have available to them. I'd like to say that Naruto could outsmart Goku and out-trick him, but like he needs to be able to hurt the guy, right? So, yep. Oh, Yakon the Light Eater, yes. Yes, I love that you were able to just, like, immediately know what I was talking about. The guy, the tall, he's like a monster, and reminds me of a Pokemon. Yeah, you figured it out. Thank you for reminding me. Yakon, okay. Sorry, it says, Gok is clever. Gok is Saiyan raised on Earth. Yes. Gok very smart. Honestly, I do recall him being, like, a resourceful and clever fighter when it comes to the actual dynamics of like the moment to moment improvisation and stuff. Like as a fighter, he's definitely very good at that, but that's more about during exchanges. I don't remember him using a whole lot of, like, I mean, when he comes back to fake out Frieza, you know, he has the whatever Frieza's Kanzon style disc chasing after him, and then manages to do that little like fake out where he pulls away at the last second and slices him in half. And we've seen Naruto do stuff like that, so it's not like Goku's incapable of thinking about tactics. It's just that I seem to remember most of his fights being more centered around, like his intelligence feats being more centered around the like improvisation and clever like feints and diversions and stuff like that, as opposed to, oh yeah, when he's like charging up the Kamehameha against Cell, and he waits until the last minute and then teleports directly to him and then blasts him. So he does stuff like that. I feel like Naruto, if you go through all of his fights and feats and like everything that he's capable of, he does have just overall more complex forms of trickery that he uses. But it's not like Goku's an idiot. Maybe when in Team 4 Star he is, but like when it comes to overall combat style, like he can be clever from time to time. Oh, you're right with the Red Ribbon Army. I just saw that comment, Darth Magog. Yeah, he soloed an entire army. So yeah, there we go. Naruto has yet to pull off that feat. But he scales to Pain, and Pain is basically a one-man army, so I guess he's relative. He's relative to army scaling. Oh boy. Goku has received training from literal gods, says Mr. Narrative. King Kai's training is equivalent to thousands of years on Earth. I suppose, yeah. Well, this is why it's going to be super important to specify what part of the series they're at. But if I said Frieza arc, then yeah, that would make sense. But I wonder, like, would that be more referring to the fact that he now can access stuff like Kaioken? Like, how is that training going to help him if the stats are equalized? Like, to be clear, if the stats aren't equalized, then like I don't think, like, maybe Sage of Six Paths Naruto could probably do something against Frieza arc, or sorry, Saiyan arc Goku, maybe, probably, especially if the Truth Seeker balls have like durability negation, but equalized stats changes like a whole lot, right? Dr. Strangle says they're not objective. If I define 6 plus 7 equals 1, then it's not right or wrong. It's just a different system, and whether you use the system is only if you find it useful. I suppose so, yeah. Although I would wonder what the purpose of creating that kind of definition would be. Dr. Strangle then says demonstrable and replicatable, just useful qualities, okay. And Darth Magog says, no, we can demonstrate that it's wrong. If I have 6 apples and get 7 more, I don't have 1 apple. That's demonstrably untrue. Yeah, I think maybe what Dr. Strangle is saying, am I understanding it correctly, is that like when I write down this character with like a sort of circle with a little line poking out of the top of it, we recognize that as 6, and we recognize that as representing like 1 and then 1 1 1 1 1, or however many I counted, right? 6 individual things, 1 6 times. But we could just say that a symbol that we're using actually represents 13 things, or 1,000 things, or negative 12 things, right? Because the symbols themselves are arbitrary. So we can choose to assign whatever value we want to whatever symbol we want, and as long as we are consistent with the way that we use the symbols, then it's all like kind of up for grabs. Am I kind of like getting the point? I think the idea is to, I mean, like, it's weird because this was surprising to me when I was talking to Sage, is that I asked him why he didn't just use the radius of the Earth, because we see the curvature of the Earth multiple times from multiple angles during the war arc. So why didn't he just use that and get a approximation of the circumference of the Earth from that value, and then go from there? Then like the response that I was given was that it's too inconsistent. Like, it's better to use statements from the novels because the way that that stuff is depicted at that point is just too variable and too unreliable to be able to get a meaningful number. But on the one hand, like, I really don't like that, because I feel like, okay, well, just get a couple of different calcs and then do an average, right? Like, Why is it unreliable exactly? How unreliable? Like, that's the start of a conversation, not the end of it. Let's actually go and look into it. But on the other hand, it does kind of like rub up against this. I've heard some people voice this concern, and I think depending on what day you ask me, I might agree with them, which is just like, fucking power scaling kind of assumes that the author gave enough of a shit to make everything line up and use a consistent scale, and that even if they did give enough of a shit, that they actually succeeded in executing on that, and that any given panel that you're calcing is representative of everything else, right? So like, if there are 10 shots of different angles of an explosion, usually people will not, like, it depends. Like on VSB, people are pretty good about this, but like in debates, people usually won't bring 10 different calcs, one for each of those angles. They'll just bring one, whatever one like serves their purposes, and then call it a day. When I was trying to explain what the fuck I've been doing for the past 7 months, or actually over a year now if you include the videos that I made, to my partner, and I was trying to explain like what it means to calc something, she like very in a very friendly way, like she's very understanding of this stuff, but like she cut me off and she's like, how, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Like, how do you know that any of that stuff is represented correctly? Like, the camera angles could be different. Like, it could be just like inflated for size or scale or for excitement or whatever. But how are they figuring out that the author like basically drew the panels for the, like for this purpose? And that's something we have to be aware of. Now, the common rebuttal I'll hear for that is, well, of course, authors care about power scaling, because if they don't have an internal, or sorry, let me rephrase that. I said that wrong. Authors care about power scaling. They care about it deeply, because if not, how would they account for characters being stronger or weaker than other characters? There needs to be some kind of a power tiering system within the universe, otherwise everything would just be arbitrary. But that's not the same as having any given panel be calibrated consistently to the point where it's like representative of a real world thing. Like, what if Kishimoto with that giant Bijou bomb explosion just wanted to show off the Earth's curvature because he thought it would look fucking awesome, right? And he didn't want anybody to start getting out a protractor or whatever and like figuring out, okay, well, this is exactly how big the Naruto world is. Like, he just wanted to tell a cool story for a moment. Now, again, we can do whatever we want. We can interpret the series however we like. We can apply whatever techniques and skills that we'd like to. And as long as we're aware that we're doing a form of interpretation when we're doing that, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I think it's great. I think it's fun. It's really interesting. I guess my only objection would be, I guess I'm bringing all this up to just admit that I get the frustration of not knowing whether or not any given panel is valid, either for the purposes of a math calc or for the purposes of narrative interpretation. Like, how am I, quote unquote, supposed to take any given panel? Am I supposed to calc it mathematically? Am I supposed to look at it from a purely narrative perspective, or somewhere in the middle? Like, there's some wiggle room. We're allowed a little bit of wiggle room. It's fun. We're allowed to have fucking fun. Fuck's sake. Anyway, Mr. Narrative says would like to discuss it with you. Yeah, you're talking about Pain versus Naruto, or sorry, Goku versus Naruto. I'm very curious to hear what the arguments are. Just like the Kid Buu versus Buhan. I'm sure it's a hotly debated topic, so be curious. Darth Magog says either 1 a.m. the next day or civilian time, or 100 hours if you use military time, but it's the same time. Oh, I see. It's an extension of the stuff you're talking about above. Beerus, the god of destruction, called Goku a genius. Do you think he was referring, Mr. Narrative, to him being like a combat genius, or he was like an intellectual genius? Because I've heard, like, I'm pretty sure there's a whole thing in early Naruto where it's like they refer to Neji as a genius, and then they refer to Lee as a genius, but they call, like, Lee isn't necessarily all that smart at math or whatever. He's just a genius of hard work is what they call him. Like, his talent is working hard. Whereas Neji just has like a higher intellectual capacity or whatever for figuring out all these complex jutsu and pulling it off. So he's a different type of genius, right? I would be curious if there's more context there about what kind of genius he is. Yeah, oh yeah, I see your message there. Oh, Combat Genius. Yeah, okay. Cool. Yeah, feel free to hit me up on Discord anytime. I'm not like often. Sometimes I'm not online for a day or two because I try to. Can I say? For the past like 3 weeks or so, I spent way too much time on Discord, and it I have a tendency to like get really involved in conversations and stuff, especially in group servers, and sometimes that can be like unhealthy if I don't set boundaries. So, at the moment, I've kind of pulled back from that, and I don't check it every day because if I do, I'll lose my fucking mind. So, nothing personal to anybody here, I promise. It's just my own tendency about being perpetually online that I have to kind of set boundaries. So if I don't get back to you right away, that's why. It's just because I don't have Discord on my phone. I only have it on the computer that I use for streaming, and I try not to sign on during the day at work anymore because otherwise it'll just like be a huge distraction. But please feel free to reach out anytime. Either I think you're in the server, right? You can feel free to send a message there. We can get a Dragon Ball channel going if we don't have one already. More than happy to talk about it. Thanks for your patience in advance. Guy says John is doing the damnedest to find a middle ground. I'm here for it. Yeah, I appreciate it. I really do. I want people to feel like they have the ability and are encouraged to explore things from different perspectives. Sometimes I think there's a very clear-cut answer and way to approach things. Most of the time, though, I'm just kind of advocating for people to have more fun and be a little bit more open-minded with things. Like, to go back to earlier, I know in my heart that Pain solos the entire verse, no diff. But I don't want to tell you you have to agree with me. I want you to feel like you can come to that, come to the truth on your own, through your own path. Yeah, like, it doesn't have to be so clear-cut. Also, very difficult to infer people's intentions sometimes via text because lack of tone. So I would always like to what the fuck? I like to err on the side of caution and not assume that I know like the full intention or whatever. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I might have missed a chat message or two because YouTube decided to send me back to top chat instead of live chat. So if I missed a message, please let me know. Feel free to repost it if I don't get back to you in like 5 or 10 minutes or so. Let me see. Oh, I think yep, here, 1 second. Honestly, I was not getting in the sign signifier distance. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I think I went overboard on that. Saria says, John wants to be the middleman, but me, I want to be an agent of chaos. Naruto solos because truth seeker orbs. I mean, sure, I'm not going to argue with you there. I think you should team up with Kona, because Kona tends to want to inject chaos as well. I don't know why they were so objecting to my penguin memes, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, that's the thing. If the truth seeker orbs are durability negation, I mean, Goku might just try to catch one of them. Like, you try to kick one and lose a foot. So, I mean, that's the other thing too. I guess you could then bring in narrative arguments like Naruto wouldn't want to kill Goku, and Goku being kind of good-natured as well probably wouldn't want to. So they probably wouldn't use some of their more powerful and deadly techniques because they wouldn't want to like kill each other. I think we should assume that for the purposes of the battle, they would be they would go all out and know that they would get resurrected. Like they thought they were in a holodeck or something like that, right? Like they could just do whatever to each other and then they would be fine afterwards. Yeah. Let's see. Saria says, I don't calc, I keep it simple. If the context makes a statement, obviously hyperbolic, that's enough for me. Same with literal. If I can't tell, I say that's plausible. I like reading calcs, so yeah, that's totally fair. I think calcs are like a tool to help us understand the story, and they're a tool to help us engage in debates and conversations with each other. But it, just like any tool, there are situations in which the tool works well and some in which it doesn't work as well. And kind of like logical, like forms of logic, like deductive and inductive and all that. Inductive reasoning, sometimes I've heard people, noodles, say that like you shouldn't use inductive reasoning ever because it can lead to wrong conclusions or whatever. The point is not that inductive reasoning gets you an objective fact necessarily. It's just one of the tools that you can use to get closer to making good predictions and having those predictions be reflective of reality. And so the the better, the more adeptly you use it in combination with other appropriate tools, the closer and closer you're going to get to understanding things better. But yeah, on its own, it obviously has a lot of flaws. On its own, it can like mislead you. So I think the various forms of analysis that we have, including calcing, including narrative analysis, including like looking at supplementary materials and all that, they're all just different ways to help us understand the core story and to talk to each other about it. We got to know how to use each of those tools, and yeah. Anyway, is bro addicted to Discord? I'm not addicted to Discord specifically, but once I start getting like my teeth sunk into anything, it can kind of take up a lot of my attention. So for example, if I start watching a TV show, I'm probably gonna just like spend most of my free time watching that show. If I recently picked up guitar, and I've just like been playing a lot of guitar. I've been playing for years, but like I haven't played in a while, and I re-picked it up. I got a new guitar, and just like that's kind of been taking over a bit when I'm not like working on Naruto stuff. I will be like listening to new music specifically to try to find riffs to play, and then looking at tabs and stuff like that. And so, you know, I I have a tendency of then like going to play guitar until like my fingers hurt and I have to take a day off because like my fucking wrist is seizing up. Because like once I start getting into something, I can like it can be really hard to let go, like a dog with a chew toy or something. And so I'm working on like just acknowledging, okay, sure, I can, if I can do this, this will be fun, it'll be kind of exciting to do this, but then afterwards it's gonna hurt. So I need to maybe take a step back. Specifically with Discord, I don't know if you guys want to get into. Oh, I just saw Darth Magog's message. Thank you so much for stopping by. Enjoy dinner, and I hope you have a great rest of your night and rest of your weekend. Take care. Um, but yeah, so like part of it is also just like um, I'm just gonna be totally blunt. I like talking to people on the internet. I really enjoy having conversations and sharing memes and bullshitting and even debating and stuff like that. So recently have been on Sage's Discord server and talked to people there a lot and hung out and spent a lot of time there. And that includes debates, and that includes sharing calcs, and that includes like sometimes being in VC or whatnot. And it is genuinely fun, and I do genuinely like that. But then when I think about at the end of the day, what have I actually done? A lot of it is enjoyable, like talking to folks like Acolyte and like Hobbs and whatnot, and sharing calcs and thoughts and debates. A lot of it can be positive, but a lot of it is just kind of screaming into the void, because like I've complained about before, you can spend like hours talking through something with somebody, and then you kind of finally, after a lot of effort, reach a little bit of a consensus, and then the next day somebody new joins the server and you're having the same conversation all over again because they weren't there for it, right? Or somebody forgets something and we have to start over, and it's just like I realized that I had been saying the same exact thing over and over again, really not very productively, sometimes not very friendlyly, and it had just been like taking up a huge chunk of my time. And then like I signed on one day. I was already in a bad mood. I was already like just kind of dealing with some stuff at work or whatever, and I wanted to zone out for a little while. And the first thing I saw was like this big ass meme right in my face that had a homophobic slur on it. Now I understand the what do you call it, the context of the meme was it was like sort of not super homophobic necessarily. I mean, it kind of was, but it was like a little bit tongue-in-cheek, so it wasn't really offensive per se, which is kind of crappy. But the reality of the matter is that I was having a bad day, and then I opened up this app to try to connect with people and have a better day, and the F slur was like big bold right in my face, and that's the first thing I saw. It was like Discord itself was calling me an F word. And that didn't make me feel very good. And when I tried to speak up about it and say like, hey, this isn't the first time this has happened, can this please stop, can we do something else, do we have to do this in particular, I was brought into yet another one of the interminable fucking debates of like, but it's free speech, bro, we should be able to say whatever we want, bro, like how dare you suggest that words can affect other people and that anybody should give a shit about that, bro. Like obviously I'm strawmanning a little because I'm frustrated, but like that was basically the gist of it. Like, what, you are the idiot for caring how other people's words affect other people. And you know what, that's not a debate I was prepared for. I tried for like how long was I in that VC with Mortify? Like an hour or two after he said I was a disgusting F slur and that my existence disgusted and offended him or whatever, trying desperately to find any amount of common ground. And then like we sort of ended on like sort of a good note, I guess, and then immediately right after that it was just like right back to it. Nothing changes. Like it's not, I am just incapable of resolving conflicts like that. I'm just not good at it, or that's just not the right environment for me to try to do it in. But the reality of the matter is that if I'm spending like even more than a couple hours, but I was spending more than 10 hours like a week trying to have those kinds of conversations with people, it just wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't helping them, it wasn't helping me. And so I really need to take a step back and be like, I've only got so much time in the week. And as much as I would like to make this work, as much as I'm going to miss some of the people there and want more of that kind of socialization and that more connection, and, you know, I'm going to miss that I'm not in the translation channel anymore, so I'm not benefiting from the work of those fine folks, like, helping me out with stuff. I just can't fucking do it. It's just bad for my brain, man. Like, you should not have to earn your, how can I say this? You should not have to feel like you have to prove your right to exist in a place that you just go to have fun and chill and share knowledge and help other people. You should not feel like you have to audition for that and then maintain a certain personality, like to hold back parts of yourself and just like, I don't know, avoid speaking up about things that bother you so that you don't like get into scraps with people. If that's the kind of vibe that it is, it's not healthy. Like that's not good. So fuck it. Like I wish there was an alternate version of that space that I could exist in and have fun with people. I'm gonna miss the good parts of it. It's not all bad, but I'm fucking like not gonna spend my time in it anymore because yeah, it's just I don't know. I'd like to not consistently feel shitty after going to a place that I tried to go to try to feel better. That's it. Yeah. Shout out to all the nice and awesome friendly people though who helped me with translations and calcs and shared memes, and you know, were genuinely nice. They're genuinely great people there. I think you and I, the first time I saw you on line at all was like when you donated about $8,000 to one of fucking Sage's streams, and then I saw you in Discord and I was like, oh, I remember you. So you know, that's I'm grateful for that connection for sure. Anyway, Dr. Strangle says, oh, actually I'm catching up here. Yeah, I think I might have kind of lost the plot of the disagreement about the clock and everything like that. Were you able to kind of get to some kind of a resolution there, Dr. Strangle? Saria says, they honestly wouldn't want to kill each other like John. Have you seen Naruto go direct in J-Stars with John Force? I have not. Do they actually have like crossover stuff? I'd be curious to read that. Same with Luffy, they're three bros. Yeah, exactly. They're not gonna like, Naruto's not gonna be like ripping out his throat with his teeth or something, like going into Six Tails mode. Dr. Strangle says, it's demonstrable, replicatable, and provable that if I'm observing a 12-hour clock that it will never become 13 hours. I think, yeah, so you're just basically like looking for a some sort of objective metric that we can all point to and be like, hey, we all know at least this is true, right? And then use that as part of our scaling. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Let's see. Dr. Strangle says, yeah, people complain about the toxicity of the community all the time, and when someone brings it, changing it, they're shot down instantly. I agree with you. Yeah, and look, I really, oh no. I'm exaggerating, Mr. Narrative. It was like, I don't know, sorry if you want to say how much it was, but there was like several donations and super chats. I think Sage was like a little flustered actually at the time. It was kind of cool. But, yeah, sorry, I was like making some very generous, consistent donations over the course of a stream. And then I think like the same energy that it empowers Saria to be taking over the leaderboards in chat started to burn within me, and then I think I needed to kind of like nudge a couple donations up there as well. But yeah, then you saw the short. I'm really glad that you you saw that. I want to make more. I need to fix my schedule so that I am spending more time with that. I had so much fun putting that together. Um, and I found another manga to do another short about. It's called Asura's, shit, what the fuck is it called? It's Asura's something. Asura's Verdict, I think. And it's something that I'm definitely interested in sharing with y'all. Very similar vibes to, Stellar Friends. Um, yeah, to kind of finish what I was saying to Dr. Strangle. Yeah, so here's the thing. I remain very wary of like going into other people's spaces and telling them, "Hey, uh, I'm dad now. I am dad. You listen to me, and you can't use the R slur because that's bad, and you can't say this kind of joke because that hurts some people's feelings. And everybody be nice and shake hands and brush your teeth twice a day." You know, I'm wary of having this persona where I like go around to other people's um, places and tell them to shut up and clean their room or whatever else, right? Sometimes you just need a space where you can just like go nuts and express yourself and like just say whatever, even if it's rude or offensive, and get it off your chest. I think that can genuinely be healthy. But I mean, like, to me, that sort of thing works best when everybody who's in the room chose to be in the room for that reason, and all like kind of agree on that. Um, they're in on the joke, so to speak, and that's not something that's very easy to guarantee with like new people joining a large public server every day, right? So, uh, I it's just not really my scene, um, unfortunately. But whatever. Let's see. Sorry, it says opens up server bombed with Avengers Doomsday. Oh no, did that just happen? That sucks. Um, I didn't even know that there was a new Avengers thing coming out. That sucks. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like, yep. Eh. I'm searching my mind for a way to put like a nice neat bow on everything and end on a positive note and summarize everything, but I feel like if I try to grope around for that, I'm just gonna keep on rambling. So pretend I said something very nice and erudite and poetic, and now I'm gonna move on. Thank you. Dr. Strangle says, "I don't think an objective system is possible. I want to create a system that is intersubjective as possible, where it becomes as demonstrable and replicatable as possible." That sounds really cool. I think I understand what you said. I think what you are discussing is something that is quite complex, at least to my brain currently, unless I'm just missing something. It sounds like a really cool idea. I think it will be tricky to pull off, right? I think there's going to be a certain amount of challenge invested in figuring out the best way to do that. But that sounds like a fun challenge to solve. So, is that something that you've already excuse me? Is that something that you've already outlined out, outlined on your webpage, or is it something that you're still kind of um, developing or elaborating on? Sorry, I'm kind of losing my train of thought. Yeah. Sorry, I said John said something so nice and poetic and philosophical. He is my goat. Does that work? Yes, of course. With Saria's endorsement, I am fully content with the way that that has ended. And look, it's verbatim stated. It's not just in the chat. I have the chat app on, and it's going to be burned into the video. Verbatim stated. Saria said it, so I think I'm all set. Thank you for helping me cover my ass there. I appreciate it. Dr. Strangle says, "Man, sometimes I wish I was dumb enough to fall for moral realism, so I could just say, yes, saying the R word is wrong because it's wrong." Oh man, so I admit I don't really know. I'm sure that if you were to say the, fuck, hang on, words are hard. I, by moral realism, do you mean moral relativism, or do you mean like moral realism? Is that the right word for it? I'm not up to date on the terms for the various schools of morality. I did kind of get into a couple of, nice, like, friendly, decent debates with like Blanco about moral or like objective morality versus subjective morality. That was kind of fun. Really tough subject, in my opinion. It's like, it's one of those things where we all have so such deep-seated convictions, and like once you start challenging them, the implications are kind of scary. So having, yeah, like that's the whole hornet's nest, so to speak. But yeah, I definitely am not a fan of just saying something is what it is because it is, and that's why it is, so it is. I think we really need to be concerned about the implications of things, like why is something wrong? It's wrong because it's wrong. To me, is not a very satisfying answer. Like, I think there needs to be more discussion about it. But anyway, yeah, let's dive right into the Konohamaru stuff. We're going to be chatting starting from chapter 426, and basically just kind of going through the fight as we have been. Of course, feel free to interrupt, and if you would like to diverge at any point or go talk about anything else, more than happy to. I always like the flow that we've been having with the streams over the past couple weeks. There's like an initial flurry of a lot of kind of chatter and just like hanging out and stuff, and then you can kind of feel it almost as everything starts, like the pace just kind of slows down a little bit, and then it like crossfades and flows into the manga discussion. It's really cool. I'm appreciative of it. Dr. Strangle says realism, i.e. morals, are actual things that exist in the universe, that exist independent of you, and not just human mental stuff. Oh yeah. I'm inclined to disagree with that. I think there's an argument that, depending on how you define it semantically, that there is an argument for there being kind of objective things that we can say about how morality develops in organisms, and like objective trends in like how those moral systems like what they seem to be trying to achieve, right? Like if we notice quote unquote altruism occurring in a whole bunch of different animal species, and we see that behavior evolving convergently from different sources, then we can say like, okay, in an objective sense, there is some sort of a drive towards collaboration that is incentivized from an evolutionary standpoint, and that is objective based on the data set that we have. But then saying that like, oh yeah, there is a what would you call it? Like, woven into the fabric of reality, there is a collaboration quintessence that those creatures are tapping into. Then it's like, you're gonna have to show me that. I don't really see that. Mr. Nerd says, bro, John, read Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail. A person that I dated had a Fairy Tail poster on her wall, and I liked her a lot, and I liked the poster a lot. So as far as I'm convinced, that plus your endorsement is all I really need. Yeah, I'd be down to check it out. What is it similar to Naruto? What do you like about it? What would you like me to look into, so to speak? Or is it just a general recommendation? Either way, yeah, I'd be curious to check it out. I'm supposed to read Soul Eater as well, apparently. Sorry I said Pain happened during the 400s. Pain was this late into the series. It felt so early reading through it for the first time. Oh yeah, dude. We are at chapter 426. It's kind of crazy to think about. Funny enough, so Jiraiya starts fighting Pain like somewhere around 370. So I usually go to like 374, 375 when we're talking about him. And this is obviously like before the Pain assault on Konoha. And then at 380, 390, you might recall what's going on around here. 390 is the fight with Itachi. So Itachi and Jiraiya, like narratively, both die on the same day at around the same time. And then there is only a period of a few days narratively between when that happens and when the Konoha fight actually happens. So I'm fudging the numbers a little bit here, but like Jiraiya leaves to go to Konoha somewhere around 360 to Amegakure sometime around 360, and then the Pain fight in Konoha and the aftermath and all that, like the cleanup, so to speak, is done by about 450. So we have like less than a week's worth of time taking place over about 90 chapters, and we have the death of probably two of the most significant villains in the series. I mean, obviously Itachi's more complex than that, but he at that point was drummed up to be a villain, and the death of Jiraiya on top of that. So yeah, the timeline versus like this would have happened over the course of multiple years, right? Like reading through these chapters as they came out. But it's like a couple of days, and it's a crazy amount of stuff happening actually in the chapters. Mr. Narrative says it has the best themes and character moments. Oh, awesome. Well, I love that stuff, so I'd be more than happy to check it out. Yeah. Out of curiosity, or actually, I guess I can just take a look right now. Oh yeah, Fairy Tail like that. Oh damn, okay. Is it complete? It is complete. Okay, long series, but not as long as One Piece. Sure, I like the art style. It's cool. Yeah, I'll check it out. Lots of spin-offs too. Looks like it's got a pretty expansive world. That's cool to see. Let's see. Go back to Naruto. Rest my voice for a second. I think I've been talking nonstop since the stream started. Okay, where were we? 426? Okay. Dr. Strangle says we can track how people put big and bigger holes in their ears. The data is true, but the value judgment on it, if that's good or bad, will always be subjective. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. For sure. I think what I was trying to get at is like, oh fuck, I feel like I'm starting to stray into Jordan Peterson territory, which makes me nauseous just saying that out loud. But like, that being said, you could potentially say that once a society has a consensus on whether or not ear piercings have a good moral value, then objectively there is a consensus on it, and therefore in some like sort of dishonestly semantic way you can say that it is objectively true that they have a value. They have an objective value, but that objective value is being defined subjectively and arbitrarily by the society, and that's like, holy shit. I mean, I really don't want this to be like a Jordan Peterson stream, but like that is kind of my friction with against schools of thought, so to speak, like that, where it's like, because we can come up with a very elaborate like or what's the word for overly elaborate for no purpose, like convoluted, right? Like if we can come up with an extremely convoluted way of semantically defining this as objective, then it is literally objective. Yeah. Okay. Jordan Peterson should chat on for sure. Is this the first time that I brought him up on stream? I think I might have mentioned him once before, because I got like a kind of like pompously like self-righteous when I saw that in one of Noodle's streams he had shown his Discord and he was in Jordan Peterson's Discord or something, and I was like, ha ha ha. Yeah. Dr. Strangle says this is called the is-ought gap. The history of humanity is altruistic, so we ought to be altruistic. Ah, I see what you're saying. Yep. I need to look into that more. That's a cool phrase for sure. Okay, so here comes Jordan Peterson to interrogate people about the philosophical and metaphorical substrate. The will of fire, huh? Define will. Anyway, so here we have, I really like about the Naraka Path that we're getting a little bit more of the mysticism, of the magic, of the like, how do you say, the mythological feeling. And this kind of contrasts a little bit with some of our discussions about like the more, I guess, dry, like cut and dried aspects of power scaling, right? Because here we have a character who summons something that we simply know as the King of Hell. I'm guessing that this thing has more significance if you're more familiar with Shinto, Japanese mythology or whatnot, and that maybe some of this is lost to us in the West. I don't think it's not really explained to us in Naruto what hell is, what it's like, or why this guy is the King of Hell, or whether or not he has a relationship with the Grim Reaper. It's just kind of presented to us like straight up, and it's weird to think that like, whereas Hiruzen had to sacrifice his life just to give a tribute to the Grim Reaper in order to then have the Reaper extract one soul for him, that Nagato seems to have the ability to extract at will. Yeah, that's something I actually hadn't thought about all that much, is that like through this particular ability, Nagato can arbitrarily do effectively the same thing the Hiruzen had to sacrifice his life to do over and over and over and over again, and then can also return those souls without having to do what like Orochimaru did, where he had to like cut open his belly or whatever and like sacrifice himself, quote unquote sacrifice himself, in order to release the souls of the people that were inside the belly of the Reaper as well. So yeah, at the end of the day, we're starting to verge into territory that I wouldn't necessarily say is magical, because we're still dealing with, you know, the chakra and the afterlife as part of the Naruto universe, not as just some pure like Harry Potter magic type stuff. But at the same time, it is starting to really push up against the boundaries of what we have been shown to be possible, and to really start almost rewriting some of the rules and the truisms that we might have accepted up to this point in the series. Also, I don't know if this is the case. It looks like this thing on his head is the same consistency and color, excuse me, of the Rinnegan rods. He does have Rinnegans in his eyes. So does this mean that like Nagato figured out a way to go to hell and shoved a fucking chakra rod in Satan's head and can now just kind of like remote control him like a path of pain? Or is it more like this is just a demon that is being called the King of Hell because it's a cool name, you know? And Nagato has control over it like another summon or something like that. It also makes me wonder, like, if the abilities that he has are derived from the abilities of Hagoromo, and that would include stuff like the Naraka Path, does that mean that like Hagoromo like came up with hell or went to hell, or like is part of the like connected to this thing in some way? Or was there always a hell and an afterlife in Naruto? Like that Grim Reaper, did the Grim Reaper or Shinigami or whatever he is exist before Hagoromo and before people discovered him? I don't know. I don't know how we're supposed to look at this. I think the overall impression that Kishimoto probably wants to evoke in us is he just wants us to feel like this is one more example of Pain having access to something that is divine, that is otherworldly, that is beyond any human's ability. It's sort of an extension of whatever Jiraiya was saying before about, you know, like how he was kind of dumbfounded about Pain's, or like Nagato's ability to find the chameleon and the Cerberus summons and all that. And like, he said, where did he even find a critter like this? And we as fans could sit around being like, I wonder if he went to a different continent, or I wonder if he had like Conan send out her paper birds to scout all kinds of different crazy places and interrogated people and whatever. We could speculate about that. It'd be fun. It could be interesting to do so. Maybe there's some additional like movies or manga or whatever, or novels that go into it. But really, I think what we're supposed to feel as readers and as people who might be empathizing with people in Konoha who are going through this fight against Pain is that Pain just has access to things that are beyond us. Hiruzen had the ability to summon something ethereal that could steal your soul. Pain does it way better. People like Jiraiya have the ability to summon massive animals from rare locations that fight. Pain just has things that are completely on a different level. Like anything you can do, I can do better. Like that kind of thing, right? And to create this kind of a fear of Pain's superiority through that that way. Now, everything I just said is obviously not very useful for power scaling, because it's purely about like my interpretation of what's going on artistically here. But I'm curious. Excuse me. Like, I don't know how the fuck we power scale this thing, because it, like, look at it. What even is this fucking thing? It's from hell. It's covered in purple hellfire, but it's also got feathers coming off its head. It is clearly a reference to something. It's clearly meant to symbolize something. I'm just not familiar with what that is. Let's see. That's just an argument ad popular. Most people like chocolate ice cream, so chocolate ice cream is good, and other flavors are bad. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Dr. Schneider. Yeah, I would agree with you there. Interestingly, I can't remember the name of the book. I think it was the Dip, but I think I might be misremembering that. I read a book at one point that was talking about statistics and how, like, the number one most popular thing is always going to be about like 50% of the market share for that category of thing. The second one is going to be like 25%. The third one is going to be like, I don't know, 17.5%. And then all of the rest are going to like cram into the remainder. So like, I forget what it was. I think the most popular ice cream flavor is chocolate. And if you survey people and ask them what their favorite ice cream flavor is, 50% of them are going to say chocolate. Like, whatever it was I said, 25% are going to say vanilla, and then every other flavor is going to be kind of crammed in like a logarithmic decay in terms of their overall share with every single other option. And that goes for the popularity of cars that people drive, the popularity of video games, like what movies people are watching, like every single category out there. There is always like number one is always like massively in the lead, and number two is like massively in the lead over number three, etc., etc. I don't know why that is. It just seems to be a trend that consistently happens. Unfortunately, the author then made this weird toxic argument where it's like, if you don't know that you can be number one, then don't do anything ever, because like, if you can't be number one, you can't settle for number two, then you might as well not even participate. Because what do you want to be, like one of those schmoes in number three? You'll have so much less than people in 1 and 2, and it's like, okay. Yeah, I really found that obnoxious and kind of toxic. Daria says, the King of Hell implies hell exists in Naruto, meaning that after the war, Hiruzen went to hell. Yeah, it's, wait a minute. Why do you think Hiruzen went to hell as opposed to the Pure Land? That's an interesting, interpretation. Do you think Hiruzen did something? Oh, because he like fucked with the Reaper before that everybody else got to go to heaven, and he's like, hey, where are they all going? Why is it getting warmer? Wait, where'd everybody go? Oh, that would suck. Dr. Strangle says, would you say the history of humanity is a history of slavery? Oh, yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely fucking not. That's called Zipf's Law. Oh, okay, gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I can't remember where. I have to go look to see if I can find that book. It's probably somewhere in my house. But, oh no, I might have an audiobook of it actually. But yeah, I get where the person was coming from, but also like it's extremely fucking annoying. Honestly, I think that like, not to get too personal, but that stuck in my head and like wound up being very like a problem for me that I had to work through. I fucking hate that. Anyway, here we have Olg. We know it's Olg because he likes to say Olg all the time. It's kind of cool that if you go through the data books, that every single one of these characters has a name. I think we were talking about that a little bit last time. But yeah, all these characters are actually named characters. They usually will have only one line of dialogue about something like, you know, or one line of a description. Like, this guy wears glasses because he thinks it makes him look cool, but everybody actually thinks he looks kind of stupid. Like, and that'll be all we know about him, but at least it's something. Now, as you folks may recall, we talked about this scene pretty extensively during the whatchamacallit, Noodles analysis, one of the debunks or whatever. And at the time, I kind of took issue with the fact that he said that these were his... I forget whether he said that these were their tongues or their stomachs. I always thought that these were their stomachs that were coming out through their mouths, because it didn't really make sense that their tongues would get like inflated and engorged like this. But I think this is one of those things where we're actually not supposed to overthink it and not supposed to be like too super literal with it, because at the end of the day, what this winds up reminding me of, and you know, like the whole narrative here is that this character is listening to what you're saying and trying and like weighing the weight of your heart and your sins, blah blah blah, right? It feels like very what can I say, like it's folkloric, right? It feels like it's something out of a fairy tale. And yes, it is part of a grounded ninja world, I agree with that. And yes, if we're looking for power scaling feats and stuff, we can consider that. But I think we don't need to sit here like wondering if he used like some sort of flesh activation water jutsu to engorge their tongues, and like how they achieve the shape transformation with the chakra, or like a yin release or something like that. It's enough to just understand the point is that they are being evaluated, and it makes sense that their tongues would be grabbed because it's like their words are being judged to see if they were telling the truth or not. It is kind of odd though that like once his quote unquote tongue gets ripped out, that it then gets like pulled in and eaten, and then he dies immediately. So I think it's probably not doing us the greatest service, so to speak, to just try to interpret what's happening here in the most literal way possible. Instead, just kind of like take it in a more abstract way. It is kind of terrifying to think about like what happens to his soul there. Like, does this soul in particular also get released from the King of Hell when everybody dies? When everybody gets resurrected with the rebirth? Or was that actually eaten and destroyed? That being said, I'm not an expert on this topic at all, but in Elden Ring there's a character called the Dung Eater, and basically what he does is he like puts his hand up in you and rips out your like a little something inside you, and then he consumes that, and that's why it's called the Dung Eater. And this is one of those things where definitely like people without any knowledge of Eastern mythology aren't gonna get it, and I didn't get it, and I had to have it explained to me. Where like there's a certain yokai, I think, that basically does that in I don't know if yokai are part of Shinto actually, like what like where they're quote unquote from. They might just be like a local tradition, like a folkloric tradition or whatever. But anyway, there's a character that like will do that. It will reach up inside you and try to grab this thing, and this thing is like supposed to be your like have your soul or your life force or something like that. So it's not so much that they're trying to eat your shit, like they're trying to the creatures are just trying to consume your soul, and that's just, it happens to be at that part of your body, and they reach up, gonna grab it and pull it out, right? So I'm wondering if this is supposed to be a reference to that, and that would kind of add more credence to the idea that this is supposed to represent the stomach, because like it's going through your mouth, but they're grabbing onto your stomach, your GI tract, or a representation of that, and then like your soul is going to be in here, and if you don't tell the truth, then the King of Hell is going to notice that, he's going to understand that, and then just pull it, and then he gets to eat your soul, right? And then that would explain why he winds up dying after that as well. So I know I literally just said, hey, let's not overthink this, and then I overthunked it. So I don't think that there's like an objectively correct reading of this. Like, it's one of those things where like we're not going to be able to power scale our way into a better understanding of this scene. It really just does come down to like mythology and folklore and history and tradition. Saria says, I'm just joking about how everyone hates Hiruzen for not doing more for Naruto. That's fair, yeah. I do find the idea of Kushina being in heaven with Minato's arms after he lost them in the war for his body came later. They just like we were talking about how stuff will randomly just like land in the Kamui dimension or whatever. Yeah. That is kind of amusing. Because that's what it's doing. It's just like the erase tool in Photoshop or whatever, you know, it's just sending that particular like a layer erase tool where it's like sending it to a different layer. That's cool. So so here's Konohamaru, and he is, I just noticed, like, I was always aware of this, but it is kind of funny to me that they have gone through the trouble of like drawing in these little pink highlights or whatever they are, like little blushes on his cheek. So initially Konohamaru does decide that he needs to get out of here. I will say that I I went through part of the anime fight of this, and they do give Konohamaru like a little scene earlier on about like he's helping some other villagers, and he risks like puts his life in danger, and he's being more heroic kind of leading up to this. And on the one hand, it's kind of cool to see Konohamaru just like doing more stuff. On the other hand, it's also kind of like, excuse me, 1 second. On the other hand, it's also kind of like, you know, nice to see him here acting like a little bit more cowardly and a little bit more goofily, and then kind of getting himself into trouble and then making the decision in real time to have this being like a level up moment for him, as opposed to running around doing errands and helping everybody and being a good boy beforehand. Like, he has an opportunity to run away. He seems like he's actively trying to run away, but then once Ebisu shows up, that's when he actually like puts himself in danger. A couple of interesting things to note here. One is that Konohamaru still has this scarf that's trailing behind him, which has got to be a liability in combat. I forget why he was given a scarf in the first place. I think maybe it was meant to be kind of a visual metaphor representing how, you know, he was always talking about like, I'm going to be the Hokage and I'm already like, he was kind of like a spoiled prince, right? And so the long flowing garment that was kind of pretty, I suppose, kind of cool looking, I suppose, but really didn't fit him at all, was kind of a visual metaphor for him just being in shoes that he had not grown into yet at all. So it's kind of interesting to see that, I guess over time the scarf seems to, like, he grows into it, but that's me like really speculating. Maybe it's just something that Kishimoto thinks is cool and I'm overthinking it. That being said, also worth noting that, so I didn't realize this until I read the fan books recently, but the ninja headbands are actually, there's a variety of different styles and types that are designed and placed on characters' heads. So this isn't just a headband that goes across the top and then he's also wearing a hat. It's actually integrated directly into the hat. And you can see it's kind of tied in the back like that. But this, maybe this is incredibly obvious for you guys. I don't know. I just, like, I never noticed it before for whatever reason. But yeah, the headband itself is integrated and is part of this, like, skull cap. Then there's this other style that Pain has where it's just a solid band that goes all the way around like this. And then Konohamaru has a third style where it has a cloth that he's actually manually tying in a different way. So Pain's appears to be fastened, his appears to be cinched or to be tied, and then we have the hat that's tied in the back. There's a few other styles that are mentioned too. And then in part 1, a lot of different characters had different ways of wearing their headbands that kind of express their personality. That fell off, oops, sorry for the tap there, that fell off quite a bit later in the series, but it's still kind of cool to see it on display. And yeah, here's Ebisu with the skull cap as well. Very cool details in the background. I don't know why Kishimoto decided to introduce Ebisu in this particular way, but after he did, he took the time to then draw, despite everything else that's going on in the Naruto universe at the time, to draw in the details of the scene, the sidewalk over here, and specifically this is really interesting to me, the grate over here. So usually these are like outflow vents for stuff like heaters or whatnot. So we have cables that are actually snaking in, it looks like, in or out of this device here. I have no idea what that means, but it's a really interesting detail that he decided, you know, this is a non-zero amount of effort that was put into the scene. Saria says, I always wondered about this because Naruto changes his headband 3 times. Oh, does he? Yeah, that makes sense. Well, he started off with the goggles and then eventually transitioned to the other headbands. Maybe it's meant to show that, like, the, you know, as he is leveling up and getting to be more of a serious ninja, the design of his headband is meant to kind of excuse me, god damn it, is meant to kind of demonstrate that, like reinforce that notion. So interesting to note also that that Pain is not fully bloodlusted even with people that he's already judged. Like, he knows that this character doesn't know anything and was speaking honestly. He could just decide to kill him at any given moment, but he starts dragging him around as opposed to just immediately murdering him. We talked about the rhino and the dog last time. I did say that this stream was featuring Akamaru, so I will try to make sure that we get to him today. But I just I saw him in the anime kind of being a bro, so I wanted to see if I could bring him up today. we talked about like Katsuyu splitting up. Very cool to see like all these kind of cables and underground like wiring and stuff like that. Again, no idea what the actual functionality of any of this is, but it is fun to see that not only did Kishimoto plan for the city to, or like design the city as having some sort of an underground transference or disposal or communication system, but actually went out of his way to take the time to consistently draw this in, even in the midst of this major fight that was happening. It's good world building. Sorry. It's good world building. Let's see. Okay, so we have Katsuyu continuing to split off. Mention of the Cipher Core and going to collect Ino. Support your jutsu. I'm not sure what that's referring to exactly, but that's kind of cool. Ino manages to communicate with Inoichi telepathically. That's cool. Go to the Cipher Core. And then the Anbu kind of step in and try to manage the animals. Looks like we've got the animal path actually standing on top of this rhino. Yeah, I mean, those black stakes do kind of look a lot like the one that's in the Naraka Path, like King of Hell's head. So it does kind of seem consistent with that at the very least. Get interrupted by Ibiki. It's kind of a shame that we don't get to see Ibiki like actually fight more. In the anime, he does actually have a cool scene. Somebody in Sage's server, I forget who, maybe it was Hobbs, pointed that out to me, that the anime scene actually adds quite a bit. He uses a variety of different techniques, like a ethereal prison torture technique. I don't know why, but the way that the fight with the dog plays out is differently as well, with the dog kind of being imprisoned in this like massive kiln and like baked alive. It's actually really fucking brutal. It gets like imprisoned in clay and like baked in this giant kiln, but then it breaks out of the clay afterwards. Oh, okay. But yeah, I can understand why this is one of those things where I think it's like, I almost wonder if they specifically designed this with the anime in mind, because narratively speaking, it wouldn't really make all that much sense to spend more time in the manga at this point, like elaborating on Ibiki's fight. Like, none of us really wants to wait around for Ibiki to have his fight. We all want to see Naruto kick ass. We want to see like stuff like combatants like Kakashi, even Konohamaru, maybe Inoshikacho. But it leaves room for this to be developed on further in some kind of a spin-off material, because he was included, he was brought to the forefront, he's there canonically. We just don't get to see what happens to him, what he does specifically. But there's now an empty space that could be filled with more elaboration for folks who are interested in it in the future. Sorry, it says in part 1 he has a short ties, then a Shippuden long ties, and then in the last is one without ties. Oh, okay, I gotcha. Yep. That makes sense. It's kind of cool to see how it mirrors his development as a shinobi as well. I'm surprised that the Hokage doesn't have like a completely different one or something like that, but I guess it makes sense that they would all kind of share the same overall, like to kind of unify them all. Same medal, same emblem. The important thing is the Konoha logo, really. So, yeah, some interesting details here, I suppose. They are trying to... Naruto, despite the fact that he has not yet been able to figure out a way to pull in nature energy, and it seems impossible, and Pa is telling him that it's impossible, is still trying to find a way to do it. Pa's so fucking grumpy over here. Also, I don't think frogs sweat, but I don't think this is one of those like interpretation things. I also don't think we should be docking what's his name? Kishimoto for drawing sweat beads on the frog. It's fine. Like, we understand that it's just shorthand for him being tired. We don't really need to worry about whether or not this amphibian can literally sweat. You know what I mean? It's fine. Now fuck. No, okay. Okay, yeah, well, here's a great example, right? Here's another example of another franchise where there is an amphibian who is sweating. This guy says he's oozing mucus. That is something toads do with stress. Okay, so we could just say that he was oozing mucus. That's fine. Okay. How did I get onto this? This is actually a toad sweat stream. But no, like, I like the design of the mushrooms over here. That's really cool. I guess that's just an example of something that we don't need to take super literally. I love the fact that Naruto isn't giving up, even though, like, what's his name? Pa isn't saying to him, hey, this is going to be really hard. You might exhaust yourself. This is going to be really dangerous. You might die. Nobody's ever done this before. You might fail. He's saying, no, you're not understanding me. Literally, this cannot be done. It's physically impossible. Like, you can't go up and down at the same time. You can't look left and right at the same time. But Naruto has a way of finding a way around it anyway, and doesn't let himself be discouraged. And going back to part 1 recently and rereading part 1, I was kind of like, I had to kind of double take and like remind myself of how fucking hard Naruto works. Like, he really does train it like insanely hard, and not just when he's learning a new jutsu like the Rasengan or something. He is an extremely motivated kid, and he's a kid who really doesn't take no for an answer when it comes to like living up to his ideals, and working hard for the things he believes in. So that is like a really important part of his character, and something that, I mean, obviously, like, look at this, right? Something that we don't talk about enough in terms of like the power scaling overall is like characters' tenacity and their motivation and their mental durability and endurance, I guess. Naruto has it in spades, and it's something that's defined his character from the get-go, all the way back to part 1. So his stubbornness, his tenacity is genuinely inspiring. One of the cooler parts of the series. So now Konohamaru previously was committed to running away. He was acting slightly cowardly, I suppose, although reasonable. Like, what is he going to do against the Naraka in a one-on-one? But I think this is very intentional, right? That like Konohamaru has always kind of looked up to Naruto and wanted to be like him ever since their first like little rivalry. And now we see a situation in which Naruto is faced with an impossible odd. He's being told that his victory is certainly not possible by somebody older than him, more experienced than him, and this is happening directly while he's thinking about how somebody before him has failed. So now we go back to Konohamaru. Konohamaru in this situation is considering giving up. He's considering the fact that like Pain, the Naraka Path, presumably quite easily, not only just killed another shinobi right in front of Ebisu, but is not prepared to do the same thing. Right? It makes sense for him to run. Somebody before him was defeated. His mentor was defeated. There's nothing he can do. There is no path to victory here. I'm going to skip over some of this a little bit because this is sort of just like the backstory that we're getting here. The terrorist Zabuza. That's an interesting, specific kind of way of describing him, but yeah. Total spaz. We get nice little flashbacks of their training together and everything that he's accomplished and how he's gradually starting to win people over, causing Ebisu to question his assumptions. Nice flashback. Kind of breaks the pacing a little bit, but that's okay. I love this panel. Like, there's a few times that Kishimoto does stuff like that where he shows two characters that are on a similar footing, but also like from an inverted perspective. I mean, it's not like the most elaborate metaphor in the world or whatever, but you know, it is a nice way of kind of visually underscoring the difference between these two characters. He's not just over him, like above him. He's like inverted, if that makes sense, across multiple axes, and that's exact representation of their narrative relationship to one another. Yeah, we get like some nice background about his determination, his focus, his commitment to his ideals, and there we actually see Ebisu himself is like now mentally projecting himself into the same group of people that were previously, you know, going to be like hostile against him. Something I want to point out actually that I didn't realize until relatively recently. Let's go back to chapter 1 for a sec. Something crazy happens in chapter 1 with regards to the village's overall assessment of Naruto, right? So if you remember, he gets tricked by Mizuki into going and stealing the scroll. And by the way, I know we've talked about this before, but by the way, Naruto in chapter 1 is objectively Kage level because he doesn't just use a genjutsu or something to take out Hiruzen. He specifically performs a jutsu on him that results in him passing out due to blood loss. Okay, so I don't want to hear any counter arguments to this. This is objectively verbatim stated. Okay, Kid Naruto Part 1 Chapter 1 one-shots the Kage and knocks him out, and he makes him bleed. Okay, so he's Kage level, just objectively. I'm sorry that might be a hard pill to swallow, but that's just what it is. But anyway, so Naruto steals the manuscript and everybody starts freaking out. Mizuki rats him out, of course, and now everybody starts getting upset. In the manga, this guy's hair is... Oh wait, never mind. Okay, so yep. Now Hiruzen is talking to everybody about the potential consequences of that happening, and then I want to go looking for him. There's another panel. Hang on, I'll get there. Something specific I'm looking for. Here we go. Right, so, as the fight is ongoing, it is now nighttime, or still nighttime, and then this is what one of the villagers says. He should have been killed when we had the chance. Another villager, random shinobi says, but we can still set that right if we act now while he's still a boy. Therefore, the demon spirit breaks free. Don't make the mistake of thinking him as one of us. When we find him, he has to die. Now, that's something I kind of forgot about, is that overall in Naruto as a series, obviously everybody hated him, but I think this is Choji's dad, and even Choji's dad, or at least another member of the Akimichi clan, are going to murder a child because he stole something. And it's more complicated than that, obviously. It's about the demon fox in him, but they are prepared to kill this kid. So if that is indeed Choji's dad, which it might not be, it might just be another Akimichi clan member, but if that is Choza, then that means Choza was getting together a lynch mob to go and kill Naruto, however old he was, 12 years old or something like that, right? And I guess they have been hunting for him because they're all upset about it. Did you guys find him yet? He could be miles away by now, etc., etc. So, and then we had this nice, beautiful scene. Oh yeah, there's the original design with the goggles and everything. So, going back here, that just kind of Terasawa's a Waiayara, yeah. I mean, he was an idealist, a political idealist. But yeah, so I mean, this is a nice reincorporation of that same kind of thing. It's a very, very similar vibe. It's not literally the same. Obviously, the design is very different. But now Ebisu has projected himself into that same group of people who is welcoming Naruto and willing to die for him. So, at the beginning of his story, they were champing at the bit, itching for a chance to kill this little fucker. And now they are prepared to sacrifice their lives just to keep his location safe. Just to protect where he is, let alone to guarantee that they would save his life or anything like that, right? So, big character moment for Ebisu of all people. Good for him at finally accepting him as a member of the village. And at this point, to a shinobi, betraying any comrade is equivalent to betraying the entire village. So, this really just signifies... I don't even think that Ebisu likes Naruto all that much as a person, but he has accepted him fundamentally as a member of the village. I think he does like Naruto, but it's deeper than that, right? It's a, he is a member of the family, and yeah, we might not always get along, but family is family. You don't fuck with family. So no, I'm not gonna ever betray anyone in my family. It's just not how I work. And now Konohamaru sees that, He sees his master having looking death in the face and knowing that he's going to die, and still deciding that he's not going to betray his ideals and he's not going to betray his family. And so that's the last straw for Konohamaru. This is his leveling up moment. This is his you know, decision to also not give up. And now he's starting to honor the legacy that like Naruto is paving for him, so to speak. Right? You could tell he's scared, you can tell he's upset, but also he does manage to tag, you know, pretty decent accuracy, a simultaneous flurry of 3 different kunai, and hit the Naraka Path in the arm without hitting his master. So it's not like he's a slouch. He also draws blood, you know, so it doesn't like ricochet off of him. Konohamaru, this moment, you know, is actually a pretty badass and pretty impressive moment for him as a character. And you put all that together. Sorry says, it's kind of messed up to say this, but Orochimaru could have won against Hiruzen if they took a lady body and just fought him naked. I mean, yeah, honestly. Like, imagine he just had Tobirama cast False Darkness, or no, Bringer of Darkness, or whatever it's called. That genjutsu that blankets the area and makes everything dark, and then he just has all 3 of them like do a harem jutsu, and then takes away the genjutsu, and then like Hiruzen would have just died from blood loss there on the spot. Honestly, it's kind of funny to think about. In a second, I'm gonna get a quick drink. So, cool interaction here. Kind of funny to me that the Naraka Path throws away Ebisu as opposed to just like breaking his neck. I wonder if he kind of has to abide by a code a little bit. Like, he is not, quote unquote, allowed to kill anybody unless he has actually given them a chance at redemption first. And I guess, or maybe he like specifically wants to chomp them up with King of Hell. I'm not sure. A bit strange, honestly. But yeah, Ebisu is allowed to exist for a short amount of time. And this is more, I mean, like, not that we needed any more evidence, but this is kind of some more evidence that, like, the Naraka Path is not going all out. Pain isn't going all out because he's letting Konohamaru talk and seeing what he says. But you could look at that also as intel gathering, because, I mean, he does immediately start yapping about Naruto. And that's why Pain is here, right? So, like, he specifically also says, big brother Naruto, I promised him. He's revealing specific personal things about Naruto to Pain. And so Ebisu just kind of laying there. Now the Naraka Path is going to start engaging with this little kid, and is doing so with the specific knowledge that Konohamaru knows about Naruto. And remember, that is the only reason, or at least the main reason, why Pain is even in the village in the first place. Was that he needs to get Naruto, he needs intel on Naruto, and he's going all out in order to do that overall. But he's not, well, actually, no, he's not going all out. He is making a big, obvious, dramatic attack on the village itself, an assault on the village directly, but that doesn't mean that he's like bloodlusted and going for the kill against every person that he fights all the time. And specifically now here with Konohamaru, he is starting off the fight with explicit multiple mentions of Konohamaru as being somebody who's a valuable source of intel, right? So, don't know what hand sign he's doing here, but okay. So Pain is starting off the fight holding back. Basically, this is me very clumsily trying to say that he's holding back. Now, simultaneously, of course, we get this parallel with Konohamaru and Naruto himself, working with Pa, trying as hard as he can to master the ability to maintain Sage Mode while, like, gain Sage Chakra while moving around, right? Nice little detail there. Like, again, Naruto's stamina is crazy, his recovery is crazy, so even the Sage Frog, who can, like, just constantly passively draw in a nature energy, or I think he can, right? Because he's, like, that level of Sage. Or maybe he can't. Oh, hang on a second. I forget. Oh, no, 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 no. Like, he still has to gather chakra and stuff like that. He's not, like, constantly in sage mode, I don't think. He's just, like, really, really good at it. Because he's literally saying it's impossible to draw in nature energy. He's really, really good at it and has access to a lot of it. Okay. Yeah, that being said, it is kind of funny how many times Naruto, like, randomly learns something from an animal doing something convenient. Like, he figures out one of the steps of the Rasengan while watching a cat. Shu is his name. Like, bat like a little ball around and pop the water balloon or whatever. So without Shu, he might not have won his bet against Tsunade. So shout out to that cat for, like, having a permanent, indelible effect on Naruto's life. But at any rate, yeah, we have this parallel between Naruto, like, facing off against Impossible Odd versus Konohamaru. Now we switch to Tsunade, interestingly enough, and get some. We can really start to see the strain that this has had on her. Granted that she is not actively fighting, she's not actively punching things and kicking things and whatnot, but she is fighting in a different way. She's not fighting physically with, like, taijutsu or whatnot, but she is actively combating with her chakra, and she is using her chakra to physically push back against the assault in a way that I think it's on a massive scale. And so, just due to the fact that she's not actively punching and kicking and all that, we shouldn't look at that and say that Tsunade is not fighting. It is still kind of uncomfortable for me to see how little female characters sometimes get to do in situations like this. Like, obviously there are exceptions, but rereading part 1 as well, Sakura has such a badass moment in the Forest of Death. I actually want to, like, look at it real quick because I was really impressed reading through it recently. And let's see. I think it's after this scene. It's right before Lee and Neji show up. Yeah, I think it's right around here. Oh, no, this is Orochimaru stuff. So, yeah, okay, here we go. So, the squirrel. So, granted that, like, okay, Naruto had his fight with Orochimaru and Sasuke did too, and they had the curse mark, and so Sakura's still not the protagonist. It's not like the most amazing things are happening to her or whatever. She's not the main focus of the series at this point, excuse me, by any means. However, she is still exhausted. She's still been working hard. She's still, trying to take care of her team, and she is setting traps and actually trying to spring them, and succeeds in fooling the Sound Ninja, Orochimaru's own ninja, in order to try to surprise attack them. And she was going to be hit, and she starts to cry. Like, she starts to kind of get on the back foot at first, and it kind of looks like, okay, well, she's just sort of the useless support, right? She's just has to hang out here and wait until she gets saved by the dudes, and she's protecting the dudes, and she's not really at the forefront. This is still a crazy impressive feat for Lee. But and that sort of goes on, and that does seem to be the case. That seems to be, like, the extent to which her role is going to be. Oh, is that the sound thing I mentioned before? No. The muscles themselves would break down quickly, so the brain system. Oh yeah, okay. This is more of an explanation of the gates and all that. But yeah, and the lotus and whatnot. So now Sakura is still sort of on the defensive. She's kind of watching everything play out, and Lee winds up getting. Here's the thing I was talking about before about the semicircular canals and the eardrum and all that. Talking about the inner structure of the ear. So it's good that we kind of came back over to this. But specifically, I want to demonstrate that Sakura is still kind of going in, right? She's still kind of participating in the fight, trying to in her own way. But then this moment here where she seems to be dead to rights, she's like kind of crying, looks like she's going to need to be saved again, and then she decides to cut her own hair. This is so fucking cool. Like, she's deciding to move forward away from that old persona and take a much more prominent and straightforward role in the fight. She's prepared to make sacrifices. She's prepared to actively participate in a way that she hadn't before. She does a substitution jutsu here by making those signs. And then this is the part that I was talking about, right? So she tries to throw some kunai, uses substitution again, and she's basically trying to fake them out with this, and like starts to goad them into thinking that she's only using one particular type of trick. This is the part that I wanted to underscore, right? Like, Sakura deliberately puts herself in, and this is like, again, well, she's like 12 or 14 or whatever. This is part 1. This is without any like healing training at all. She, as far as I know, she doesn't know how to use healing jutsu whatsoever. She's already exhausted. She's already like come close to death or injury several times, right? She jumps directly at this dude who throws like 4 kunai at her and just tanks them. Like, she just flies directly into them and takes the kunai. She has multiple knives sticking out of her body now and comes right in like this, lands on the guy, stabs him through the fucking arm, and then like bites the shit out of him and latches on, and then he starts wailing on her, and she just stays attached, you know, and keeps on taking the hits. And you know, despite the backlash over here, eventually what happens? She gets knocked off, but she's still ready to come back, and she's totally, I forget if this is Dosu or Zaku, but she's put him completely on the back foot before these guys show up, right? So that is really, really, really cool. Now, granted, Sakura does have a great interaction with Sasori. Like, that fight is awesome, but for the rest of part 1, basically what she does is cry. And I'm not in any way stigmatizing crying. I think everybody should cry from time to time. It's a good way to get your emotions out. It's natural. It's normal. Regardless of your gender or your age, you're allowed to cry if you need to and you want to. It's great. It's a part of life. But she is just given the role as somebody who asks Naruto to do her favors while she cries. And then she kind of does a lot of that later as well. This is arguably like the most badass moment that she has in part 1, and then apart from the Sasori fight, she kind of doesn't do all that much either for a long time. And yeah, there's moments, but nothing like this. And so when I say that Tsunade is fighting here, she's fighting in her own way. She's dedicating her chakra, she's risking her life, she's like putting everything on the line to save her village. But also, this is night and day different from how she was when she like used Heavenly Foot of Pain to smash like an entire like part of a castle away, and when she was, you know, facing her fear of blood and becoming paralyzed and then getting over that. Very similar kind of parallel to what happened with Sakura, right? Like, she had this lingering fear that was holding her back, and she broke through it and all that. We're not getting those big character moments for these female characters anymore. We're not getting these evolutions. We're not getting the frontline warrior archetype anymore, and it's really sad because I don't know, I would be curious to hear what the general consensus is from the like overall female Naruto community, but I got the impression as like a kid reading the manga and now as an adult reading the manga that like the female characters were given like great roles, great opportunities, whatever you want to call it, great like spotlight is the word I'm looking for. And then something changed. I don't know what it was. I don't know when or why, but yeah, Temari's cool. Yeah, fucking Tayuya's cool. But in part 1, something switched, and the female characters just kind of had to be on the back foot. And then that change, while it goes up and down, it kind of vacillates. You know, that change like its presence is felt the entire rest of the series. Feels like a huge missed opportunity. Little disappointing. She should be like punching. She should be doing this to Pain, right? But she doesn't get a chance to. She doesn't even get to fight. Konohamaru gets to fucking fight more of the paths of pain than she does. She doesn't even like try to land a hit on Tendo. It's fucking weird. The more I think about it, the weirder it gets. Obviously, this is a cool feat for Tsunade doing this, right? But I don't know. It's weird. could have found a way. At least they let her fight in the fucking war. If we had gotten to the war arc and she was just like, you know, and I don't know, similarly off in a like protected location somewhere, and she was just like funneling chakra to Katsuyu and not like tangoing with Madara or whatnot, they would be like fucking gross. I'm glad that they actually let her do something. So here's Choji. Choji's giving some intel, giving some information. This is an important phrasing. So like Pain's jutsu simulate magnetic attraction and repulsion. Oh, hold on a second. I'm sorry. I think I missed a message from Saria. Hello. Saria says Naruto learning from animals and Goku chasing a monkey. I guess a grasshopper in the anime, but I don't know about that. I just know about Bubbles the monkey. I know about the grasshopper but only from Team 4 Star, from Dragon Ball Z Abridged, which is still the optimal way to experience the series, in my opinion. But yeah, there is a lot of like whimsy when it comes to like learning from animals and stuff like that in the series. I think that's a nice part of it, honestly. Repel all attacks, all ninjutsu and attacks, right? So obviously take those statements in context. Okay, I'm going to skim over some of this stuff. There's probably more we could talk about Choji and all that, but kind of cool. But I think I want to kind of try to get to the Konohamaru stuff, if I can. Here's the autopsy room over here. We got the Predator path going for the autopsy. I know some people say that like the Predator path is a non-combat path. It's not really the case. He can fight, but obviously it's not his strong suit. Might be interesting to note that the doctor over here was left alive. So, you know, again, Pain will kill anybody that he needs or wants to, especially if they get in his way. But he's not like bloodthirsty in that same way where he's going to kill anybody the moment he sees them, right? Like, he has to have a specific reason for it at a specific time, I guess. Like, he sees himself as a god of justice and vengeance and whatever else he thinks of himself. And so he's not going to just like kill for the sake of killing, for the sadistic pleasure of it, right? He's always going to be very cold and calculating and matter of fact about it, even with the massive Shinra Tensei. Kind of interesting that they have the Predator path go out of the way to collect the chakra rods. I guess it makes sense that Pain wouldn't want that intel to fall into the hands of the enemy, but yeah, it's like they send the Predator path away from the battlefield, away from the fight, away from intel gathering, to specifically recover the chakra rods from the other path. And he could have just, you know, taken the path body back, right? And like repaired it with the Naraka Path or whatever, but doesn't seem motivated by that. Is more motivated by the chakra rods themselves. That to me is kind of weird, because the chakra rods, like Nagato seems to be able to just make as many as he wants whenever he wants. So I'm guessing that he just wants to get the rods back for intel reasons. Like, he doesn't want the enemy having access to them one way or another. It's more about that than than needing them as a supply. I think I posted in Discord the other day. Let me actually take a look. That grenades are canon to Naruto, weirdly enough. Yeah, where is it? Oh, yeah. Can I bring this in? Can I do that? Yeah, okay. So this is from the Konoha Assault, and this is right when, during the Chunin exams, right? They use a smoke bomb that just looks like a regular ass like real world grenade, which is kind of funny. And then here they use a similar thing. Oh, I guess it's like literally like a flashbang, which is kind of funny. I don't know why. I just find this amusing. It's just weird because they use like smoke bombs that appear to be, you know, just like little balls of paper, but then they also have just like fucking Call of Duty grenades. So, and flashbangs specifically, we don't see them used on many other missions. It is kind of cool that we get like the lighting here. It feels very bright. It feels like very well done. The contrast and lighting here is great. We see some fragmentation from the grenade itself, which is a nice little detail. And of course, we also see the illumination here. I'm sure somebody could potentially use this as a calc, like the Predator Path manages to go pick up the body and move away and use it as cover, and then jump up into the ceiling before the shrapnel from the grenade manages to hit him. So yeah, I don't think I've heard anybody bring this up before, that this could potentially be a calc. I know somebody has used like Gaara's sand reacting to an explosion, so why not this? Why not, like, okay, figure out how fast shrapnel is propelled away from a grenade, and then you can get like a movement speed calc for the Predator Path. Probably because people are already gonna say that the fucking Sage Naruto is the speed of light or whatever other like bullshit that I get irritated at. But like, so no offense to anybody who actively believes that. I just think it's fake news. And I'm frustrated with the arguments, but no disrespect to any individual person per se. It's just the arguments kind of bother me. But that being said, the overall speed here is not going to be impressive compared to speed of light, but it's worth talking about, right? Yeah, here comes Kiba and his mom and Akamaru. Look at the good boy. I think I posted something in the Discord as well about how, like, after Kiba gets injured during the Sasuke retrieval, like a whole bunch of different dogs show up to the hospital and and keep him company, Akamaru and Kiba company. It's really, really cute. We could talk about Konan. I think I'm gonna skip over some of this stuff just because, like, I mean, I love her design, I love the whole scene, the framing, but just gonna try to take pace with Konohamaru. Let's see. Metal Gear Shippuden, yeah. Saria says, I agree, it's one of those things I noticed, but I was like, I guess I get it, but that's me being generous, but I just took it as a moment of Kishi not using them because he wasn't comfy with it. Yeah. I mean, like, it's a cultural thing, probably, it's a narrative thing, probably, it's a time constraint thing, probably, and honestly, the tone between Naruto Part 1 and Part 2 feels so different, in some ways, that I have to wonder if it was really all just Kishimoto not knowing how to write women, because he, like, obviously women were not in the more prominent roles in Part 1, for the most part. I mean, Tsunade was pretty fucking prominent being the Hokage and all that, but like, there aren't as many, there's not like an even distribution, like it's still a majority like male leading roles and stuff like that, but there are some genuinely badass and cool and interesting character moments, and like, not all of the characters have to be like bold and like Katara from Avatar or Azula or something like that, like have a very outward brash personality. Hinata is like a wimp, right? She's sort of pathetic initially. She's very like kind of timid and meek and frail and all that, but she moves from that place to a different place that means that her journey is very compelling. And you know, honestly, it could have been fine for Kishimoto to continue with Hinata being a very timid character. Like, wouldn't it be interesting if one of the core ninja just realized, you know what, actually fuck this, like, I don't actually want to spend my life like running around trying to kill people and avoiding being killed myself. No, fuck this is not who I am. And like, if she had come around and like decided, you know what, Neji was right, this is not where I belong back in my estate, that would not necessarily read to me as like misogynistic or anything, or even like bad character development, because that is a realistic choice that somebody could make. I'm glad that she didn't. I like the arc that she had, but then again, like, what growth does she really engage in? Like, what does she really do that's genuinely impressive and badass and changes the story and changes herself as a person from the beginning of Shippuden through to the war arc? She mourns Neji. She stands next to Naruto and is comforted by him. She shows up, and she does have a badass moment where she shows up to defend Naruto, but then she dies. Like, she's barely on screen, right? So, hang on 1 second. I need to save this for the Naruto geography thing. because this is going to be useful later. One thing too. Just saving the scan. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to. I think it's worth talking about Pain's speech for tonight. I'm going to skip over his speech and then we'll come back. Oh, okay. Come back to it later because I'm getting my voice is like starting to crack up a little bit. And I want to finish up with Konohamaru. Saria says, I love Kiba's mom. Her design is so cool and she never gets to do a thing. I know, right? She's such a badass. And her dog is really fucking cool too. But of course, we don't get to see her do anything. So sometimes, okay, so Konohamaru does manage to dodge a kick from the Naraka Path, and people will use that as a an anti-feat, which I think is really funny because obviously the Naraka Path is holding back. You know, they've been like Konohamaru is going huff huff huff, like he's clearly getting tired. The Naraka Path is showing no signs of exertion. It's just sort of coldly calculating the situation and looking for an opportunity to get in there and extract intel. The Naraka Path is not trying to kill Konohamaru. In fact, arguably speaking, this path is probably only using a fraction of its attack power because, as far as he knows, this is just some dumb little kid, right? Might be like an academy student or something like that. And, well, no, he has a headband, so he's obviously a Genin, right? He's a ninja. So he's taking him with a certain amount of seriousness, but no, he's not like going to risk killing him if he's could lose some serious intel in that regard. However, it does look like the Naraka Path is deliberately attempting to maneuver Konohamaru into a decent position, right? Like he sees where he's going. He's like, okay, I just need to press him a little bit more and then he'll be fine. And that's exactly what happens. And the moment that Konohamaru touches the wall and turns back to look, like he's still figuring out what's going on, then the Naraka Path speed blitzes Konohamaru. Like I don't care about that term, right? Like he just like dashes to him and grabs him. But in that moment, at the same time, Ebisu kind of comes up from behind him, maybe not as stealthy as he potentially could be, but then gets kicked back. And again, like the Naraka Path probably could have killed him here, but he's almost like sort of disinterested. He's just like, get the fuck away from me. Like he doesn't care whether or not Ebisu survives because he has no utility or relevance to him. From the back, we can see a little bit more detail about the King of Hell. Those feathers are kind of sloping backwards to the rear, which is nice. It looks like this is almost like the lapel of a jacket, and you can kind of see this looks a bit more like a crown, which is interesting. We didn't quite see that from before. Now, Konohamaru, imagine how much fucking, like, how afraid he must be. Like, how terrifying this has got to be, because he's seen his own teacher, obviously much more experienced and like, probably has much better jutsu and all that than he does, just got basically, like, kicked in the throat and immediately dismissed. And then at least two other people were previously, like, similarly dismissed by the same path earlier, much more experienced and skilled than he is, supposedly. And now he's facing down this otherworldly thing that's like gonna rip out his soul. He doesn't know that, but he knows it's like a big fucking problem, right? Ebisu is like down for the count. And I'm gonna scroll through that because YouTube. But now it's interesting. We are essentially seeing the leveling up of this character. We are seeing this character move from a position of being not a fully fledged shinobi to essentially getting, as far as I know, his first kill, or at least, you know, scoring a very solid hit, a very solid attack. And it's not just about the physical connection, it's not just about the damage that's being dealt, it's about him moving from a place of just looking at Naruto's back, like seeing him from a distance and feeling like this rift between them, and then taking a step closer to actually leveling up and learning his lessons, and also taking the lessons that are like a little bit silly, a little bit goofy, and incorporating them into a real combat context. And it kind of reminds me of how, like, Naruto struggles to understand the mixing of the sage energy and all that, but then Gamakichi explains that it's kind of like adding mint to the chocolate and vanilla swirl in an ice cream cone. It just makes it, or ice cream, it just makes it all the tastier, and he immediately gets it. Well, Konohamaru uses these particular sorts of examples to help him understand and get the stuff better. So there's a parallel between Konohamaru's development and Naruto's development. And now it turns out that the thing that the Naraka Path actually had hold of was a shadow clone the entire time. And now here are two things that are really interesting that I think we need to kind of keep in mind. Is that, for one, this is a clone, and if it's like a shadow clone in the same way that Naruto shadow clones are, then that means that it does have a physical form, and that makes me wonder what the hell is going on with tongue here, because that means that shadow clones also have like organs, and if this is a more metaphorical representation of the organ or whatever, like it's engorged or something, it's his stomach, then shadow clones also have stomachs. So could a shadow clone, like, I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? It's a solid physical perfect copy, but can like shadow clones eat? Do they get like indigestion? Like, it just makes me start to wonder about like it feels like this sort of thing, given that it is meant to judge or evaluate or whatever the real person's soul, it being used on a clone like this almost feels out of place. But for whatever reason, it works. And then he manages to, over the course of time that it takes him to dispel the shadow clone and for the Naraka Path to notice, he manages to dash up behind him, and the Naraka Path sees it, visually reacts to it, but either can't or doesn't get out of the way. Let's give Konohamaru the credit and say that he couldn't, that it was not a speed blitz because he could perceive it, but it was something like that, right? He outpaced him significantly to the point where the Naraka Path could not get out of the way. I like that interpretation. You could dispute it, but I like it. I think it's also worth noting that he performed this while having made 2 separate shadow clones, right? So he's a pretty advanced user of the shadow clone technique, especially for somebody his age. The Rasengan is also a difficult technique to learn. When Naruto learned it, like, granted, a lot of the time that he spent learning the technique was just figuring it out, and he kind of gave Konohamaru a little bit of a shortcut by explaining it with those particular metaphors, but he's still able to perform it, and he also uses Naruto's innovation for the technique. So he didn't like do what Minato did and just like conjure one in his hand. He specifically used the Naruto Uzumaki school style of developing a Rasengan when you need a helping hand, literally. So it's cool. He's not just using shadow clones, he's using Naruto style shadow clones to create a Naruto style Rasengan, and combining those 2 jutsu to take down a Path of Pain. Now, this is where the misunderstanding starts, and I'm going to skip around a little bit here and then kind of wrap it up for tonight. So people see the Path of Pain slumped over like this, and they say, okay, well, clearly he's dead, right? But as I think pretty much everybody knows now, but just to be clear, this Naraka Path is the path that resurrects other paths. If this path were to genuinely be dead, then Pain would not be able to resurrect any of the other paths. So let's see what happens, right? We can talk about this conversation with Tsunade next week, or the next time we talk about this stuff. We should also talk about like the this feat over here, Shizune and all that. Sakura, of course, is just healing people on the back lines. She had to throw one single punch and then she was done. But yeah, so let me see. Did I skip over it while I was talking? I don't think so. Okay, yeah, so Pain figures out from Shizune that Naruto is at Mount Myoboku, and yeah, the Shizune death is really tragic. It's quite cold, preparing for the Master Shinra Tensei. Okay, so here's the animal path lands outside of the village. The animal path can summon other paths to it. Performs the Kuchiyose, art of summoning, and we see a variety of different paths summoned. Okay, so we see, here's the animal path. Asura path is lying down on the ground and is like just destroyed. Here's the Naraka path. The Naraka path shows up standing. Or this is the Preta path. Here's the Naraka path. The Naraka path shows up standing. Here's the human path, shows up standing as well. And then if we go to the next scene, now they all fall over, right? Because now Tendo is going to concentrate his power, and he's going to use the Master Shino Tensei in the village. So the fact that they are all falling over means that they were up. Of course, the only one that doesn't have the little dust clouds to indicate that he fell over is the Asura Path, because the Asura Path was already quote-unquote dead and was destroyed. I'm going to skip over this for now, but it's an amazing piece of artwork. Really interesting things to say about it. I just want to kind of stay focused on the Konohamaru stuff at the moment. Almost done with that. Now Naruto shows up. And I just want to show the resurrection of the path real quick. Resurrection F. And here we go. So this is in chapter 430. Naruto has now arrived in the village, and we now see all the paths slowly start to stand up. This is the Naraka Path. This is the one that fought Konohamaru. And as you can see, there is no damage to him at all. There is no damage to his clothing. There is no damage to his... maybe he has internal damage, but for him to have internal damage, then the Rasengan would have had to have bypassed his clothing without dealing any damage to it, which is possible, actually. I think that's what happens to Kabuto. We could go take a look. But at the end of the day, he doesn't appear to be damaged at all. If he is, he doesn't go inside the mouth of the King of Hell, right? So he brings up the Asura Path. There is the King of Hell. And look, you could say, well, maybe he was very, very seriously damaged, but like what's her name? The Animal Path, like, summoned him and the King of Hell, and just off screen, the Animal Path, like, shoved him and kicked him into the King of Hell's mouth. But no, because look what happens. He specifically does this gesture with his arm towards the Asura Path, and then we see, as a result of him doing that, the King of Hell actually opens up these little stitches on its mouth, or it's not his mouth, it's the collar or whatever it is, right? And then, as a result of his actions, the Naraka Path's actions, takes the Asura Path in, repairs it, and pulls it out. So the Naraka Path could not have been killed by Konohamaru, because the Naraka Path gets up, raises his arm towards the Asura Path, commands the King of Hell to do this, and repairs it. He couldn't do any of that if he was already dead, right? So, no, it didn't do anything at all to the Naraka Path. He just pushed it over, and this happened to coincide with the same part of the fight that Pain had already kind of resolved things with Tsunade and was ready to kind of move on. As a little bonus, let's take a look at the Kabuto fight, and then we're going to wrap things up. Yeah, so can't remember if it's after this, I think. I'm trying to look for the time where Naruto uses the Rasengan on Kabuto. Oh, so it's before? Yeah. So it must be before this, yeah. He just got hit, so it would have been before that. Okay. Right, so... Okay, so it is actually sort of tearing away at his clothing a little bit. Pushes him back. What a cool, like, rendition. Look at how it's, like, tearing and shredding and poking and spiking the air. So cool. This is Naruto's first time using the Rasengan in context. Oh, no, it does actually tear his clothes. Okay. It does. It totally fucks up his, the exterior of his body. Okay. For some reason, I thought it just, like, bypassed the surface of the body, but I think it's a bit... It does do internal damage anyway. Okay. But yeah, no, it does also damage the surface of his body. Okay, I'm glad I checked that, because I've been saying that before. Okay, well, I think that's actually it. We just hit the 3-hour mark, and I think that kind of, at least, you know, there's still more to talk about this fight, but at this point, you know, I've kind of spent time talking about the preamble to the fight, the Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Konohamaru was the other one that I think people kind of had some misunderstandings about. So I think this is a great spot both to pause for the evening, as well as to pause the Pain fight analysis for the time being, and then get on to like the spicier stuff next week. So I just want to say thank you very much, everybody, for stopping by. Whether you are watching the video back after the fact, or whether you've been with us this evening, or both. don't spend that much time listening to this. But either way, I genuinely appreciate you, appreciate your time, appreciate the conversation. I do also want to say thank you so much. Like, I try not to like look at the numbers on the videos because I think it would just drive me crazy. But I've been seeing like how many people have stopped by and like taken a look at some of the stuff, and it's really genuinely amazing. I'm very, very grateful, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it and getting something positive out of it. I'm always open to feedback and suggestions, whether that's like, hey, you got this wrong, or hey, I'd like to hear you talk about this or whatever. Totally down for that, and hopefully you get something positive out of it and can use it in your own research or whatever videos you're working on too. So that all being said, thank you so much. Thursday will be Claire Obscure. Looking forward to that. Next Sunday will be a surprise stream about geography. I'll just say that. Or Naruto geography, planets and shit, and horses. Lots of horses. Sorry, it says you deserve the support. Thank you. That's so wonderful. I appreciate you. You've been so supportive, genuinely. It really does mean a lot. And yeah, feel free to also join the Discord. I do have a server that is great for just sharing thoughts and stuff. My brain is a little cooked right now, but yeah, if you guys are interested, more than happy to have folks join the server and hang out and chat. It's a chill environment. And in the meantime, hope you have a great week, and I'll see you then.